Part 30. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 291. Zhang Yuling could still convince himself that after all, being with Li Yuan was quite satisfying. The main reason is that he is afraid that if things break out, others will prevent Li Yuan from coming to Taiwan. In the end, what kind of brain circuit did Li Yuan have? It was clearly very thin before, but suddenly it changed. But, it seems pretty good. Something happened during lunch. After Li Wan came back, he took over the child and asked Zhou Wan to continue going to the kitchen. So I finally had it in my mouth around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. After returning home, Li Yuan quickly got into the zone. Every morning after lunch, I would bask in the sun in the yard. Even with floor heating, the feeling inside the house is completely different from outside. He also saw that the pork sent by Song Dalong had already been slaughtered by Li Wanhe and Zhou Yifang. One family took 1/3, and the remaining 1/3 was distributed to other families in the village. Li Yuan met He Jianchuan, the attending doctor in the village who chose to stay. After the house was completed, he brought back his old man and his wife. However, there are currently no good schools here and the children go to school in other places. Similarly, Gao Ming is back. He used to be an executive in a large company, but at the age of 37 or 18, he has gradually lost his competitiveness and has been under a lot of pressure recently. There is a large supermarket ready to open at the entrance of the village, and Li Yuan is going to let Gao Ming be in charge. This point has been discussed with Zhou Ran a long time ago. After all, Gao Ming has experience and being able to choose to stay is also an attitude in itself. They didn't stay because Li Yuan became the richest man. Before they decided to stay, Li Yuan had no reputation at all. The three of them would chat together whenever they had nothing to do, talk about the future and so on, and would also go fishing next to the pond in the village. Many men have no idea about fishing on weekdays, but once the surrounding environment is suitable, they will choose to try it and then become addicted to it. It's not addictive, but fishing feels really good. Maybe it's the hunting gene that comes from within? When I was a child, I chased rabbits, but now I am not allowed to catch rabbits, so I can only develop fishing. There is a lake and 2 small ponds in the village. The ecology inside has recovered well. It is expected to be large-scale next year. It is not so good this year. The three of them fished for 2 days and did not catch 2 kilograms of fish in total. It was Zhou Yifang who went to the vegetable market outside to find the fish farmers in Qingtang and bought a lot of good things. When it comes to fish farming, most fish ponds that are not pursued are similar to wild ones and have a very refreshing taste. Originally, Li Yuan thought he could spend the past 10 days comfortably, but at noon on the New Year's Day, Bixin Company made a big one for him. An article suddenly appeared on Bixin's official account, titled, "How Should Trash-Like Men Be Classified?" Pictures and text. It directly pissed off the users of Bixin. What the hell do you mean? Li Yuan rarely pays attention to these things. He only saw the relevant content after Ho Wenbin sent him a message. At this time, it had been more than 2 hours since the article was posted, and it was spreading all over the internet. Li Yuan's face turned dark after seeing the news. He called Song Jiajia. "Song Jiajia, what's going on? What's wrong? Don't tell me that it's been 2 hours, and you still don't know anything about the operation of the Xingguan Hao." Wait a minute. Song Jiajia hung up the phone. I guess Song Jiajia really doesn't know. After all, few people around her knew that she served as the vice president of Bixin. Those who knew were all company employees. If such an article could be published, those people probably wouldn't tell Song Jiajia. About 5 minutes later, Song Jiajia called and said, "I have informed people to withdraw the article." Then what? I will criticize those employees. Song Jiajia, that's enough. I want more than just criticism. Issue an apology immediately. Song Jiajia immediately replied, Mr. Lee, this matter will slowly subside. Issuing an apology will have a huge impact on the company's image. Looking at so many companies that have done wrong, how many of them have issued an apology? Subconsciously, apologizing is embarrassing and it damages the brand image. Except as a last resort, when an apology is necessary to solve the problem, an apology is like a company's underwear and cannot be taken off easily. But Li Yuan can't control that much, the image is shit. He doesn't even dare to issue an apology, he is just a rat who hides his head and shows his tail. Immediately issue an apology statement and fire all the employees involved. Finally, use the legal department to hold all the employees involved accountable. Responsibility, hold them accountable for the damage caused to the company's brand image. Song Jiajia was confused when she heard this. Is this too strict? You can be fired, but you will be held accountable. Song Jiajia, I am the boss. After a moment of silence, Song Jiajia said, okay. Li Yuan continued, also, send me the information files of all Bixen employees, I want to review them. After hanging up the phone, Li Yuan was still upset. In fact, this phenomenon will become more and more serious in the next few years, and even many official media will personally set the pace. To put it harshly, it means smashing the knees of Chinese men. No one apologized afterwards. Li Yuan urgently updated his social platform, first apologizing for Bixen's incident, and then announced the results. When they saw that Li Yuan was going to be held legally responsible, the public anger was barely calmed down. There was one comment that Li Yuan was very moved by. I am very happy that Yuan Shen can handle it like this. In recent years, it has always been popular that women are meant to be pampered. There are even big companies openly saying that men are inferior to dogs. In short videos, men are always beaten and punished without any hesitation. I beg my wife to give me some pocket money without any limits or dignity. I am as humble as a dog. All day long, the internet is full of Valentine's Day marketing. I can't wait to celebrate 800 Valentine's Days in a year. If there is no Valentine's Day, I will start making it, in autumn. The first cup of milk tea, the first box of strawberries in winter, all marketing is promoting what boys should give to their girlfriends. As a result, if you are in a serious relationship now, you will be pooed by girls. If Yuan Shen is like this, I just want to say that I will pay the consequences for myself in order to please girls, so I just want to say that sooner or later I will reap the consequences. Thank God for leaving us a pure land free from pooas. Li Yuan did not respond to this comment, even though it received tens of thousands of likes. About half an hour later, he received the personnel data from Bixen. He took a look and found that except for programmers, 95% of whom were boys, almost all other departments were girls. Especially department management, there is almost no difference. Li Yuan called Song Jiajia. Let me ask you first, did you really not know about this in advance? Song Jiajia was frightened by Li Yuanji today and said, I'm not a fool. If I really knew, I would definitely not let the article be published. The Bixen escort business itself only serves men. The ones who can contact you should be all major managements. Those managements didn't report to you. This didn't happen before you called. Prepare to lay off people after that year. All the management will be laid off. And the personnel management of Bixen is very abnormal. Haven't you noticed? Which aspect? Too many girls. It's not what I think. Except for the high salary in the technical department, the salary in other departments is normal. In Zhangzhou, the salary is 5 to 6,000 yuan a month. There are also certain requirements for academic qualifications. There are very few boys who meet the requirements. Come. After meeting the academic requirements, boys go to first-tier cities to pursue a monthly salary of tens of thousands, because a monthly salary of 5 to 6,000 is simply not enough for them to buy a house, a car, and get married. What about management? The management salary is not low, it can basically start at 13,000 or 40,000 yuan. After all, the management of BusinessManagement are all small managers, and the company's core business is not much, and Song Jiajia is handling it. The management also comes from ordinary positions. There are not many boys in ordinary positions. Where can I find management positions? Li Yuan took a deep breath and said, let's recruit again after the year. Even for review positions and manual customer service, no less than 30% of boys must be recruited. Related reviews need to be cross-checked. If something like this happens again, you will just go back to Jushin Media. Okay. Song Jiajia is also very irritable now. In fact, after she knew about this, she didn't realize that Li Yuan would be so angry. This is because Bixen is not the only one to have this kind of accident. There have been too many companies that have had similar accidents in the past 2 years. But in the end it was basically nothing, but it gained a lot of popularity among female fans. After all, women have high spending power, and Bixen's small business accounts for the bulk of its revenue. Besides, aren't the twin Yang brothers signed by Jushin Media just for this traffic? It was even a specially customized script by Li Yuan. The main theme of the video is that a man has no status and is treated like a dog by a woman. Now it has 20 million fans, and it can be regarded as the top brand of Jushin Media. Female fans account for 95%, which is even more exaggerated than Gu Dongsheng. In the future, after the live broadcast of goods, it is possible to sell 30 to 50 billion a year. As a result, Li Yuan got so angry this time. Once held accountable, it will have a great impact on the company. Who among the employees will dare to do anything? Everyone is afraid of being held accountable for doing something wrong. But Li Yuan was obviously angry, so he could only do what he said first. Originally, she was already very irritated when her relatives said something about her when she went home during the Chinese New Year, but now BusinessManagement has made this happen again. She plans not to come back for the new year next year. As vice president of Bixen, she will definitely continue to work because she has grown very fast in Bixen. To put it bluntly, Jushin Media is more of a studio and is completely different from Bixen. It involved a lot of decision-making, and Li Yuan gave her a platform to perform. Once she left, it would be impossible for her to find such a position again, and Song's shares couldn't provide it. She stayed in the room for several hours until her family called her to go down for the New Year's Eve dinner. Her parents didn't say much about her, and even helped her say some nice things in front of her relatives, otherwise she wouldn't even want to eat the New Year's Eve dinner. But before going downstairs, she sent a message to Li Yuan. Can you tell me what's the difference between this and twin brother Yang? I've been thinking about it for a long time but I still haven't figured it out. Soon, Li Yuan replied. Jushin Media serves individuals, and the themes and characters should be all-encompassing. Even if it's bad traffic, there should be some. But Bixen serves thousands of users. Obviously targeting a certain user group is taboo. That's it? Come on, whoever touches you will die in the future. Don't treat heart comparison as a small workshop. I invested so much money, not to let a group of smelly people come here to ruin my reputation. I understand, I will return to Zhangzhou tomorrow. Okay, thank you for your hard work. I watched some news and my mood exploded. This chapter is just a complaint. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 292. The accident during the day was a wake-up call for Li Yuan. Those guys in the West have no bottom line. This time I posted an article inexplicably, which is meaningless for Bixen, but for rhythm makers it can be said to be inspiring and has influenced countless people. Even if he apologizes, the impact will always be there. It's like a piece of white clothing stained with ink. No matter what method is used, even if it is washed until no more dirty water can be washed out, or even invisible to the naked eye, it is still dirty and will stay dirty forever. If you think about the conspiracy theory, this is because those guys in the West are stuffing their money with them, and their purpose is to create contradictions and conflicts. Li Yuan could only think about this. It can't be said that those women were brainwashed and voluntarily stuffed private goods into it, right? Isn't that mean? After the New Year's Eve dinner, the village became more lively. Although there are only 7 households left, the third master's place is much more lively than before. In the past, during the Chinese New Year, you could organize a game anywhere, but now there are only a few of them, so you can only go to third master's place to organize a game. Li Yuan also went over to play cards for a while. Although he was very calculating in the stock market, after taking the cards, his mind went blank and he didn't want to use his brain at all. In the end, we played until 12 o'clock, lost several thousand yuan, and was driven away by Li Wanhe. Because Li Yuan didn't bring any money, he kept taking it from his desk. He finally won some money, but all of it was exported by Li Yuan. He has been waiting for this day all year long, and he must not be tricked by Li Yuan. Li Yuan smiled and could only get off the card table. No one paid attention to him, everyone was having fun. I don't know when he left the villa. Before leaving, he saw the wrinkled face of the third master, sitting on the recliner with a happy smile. There were indeed people who came to play with him before, but their hearts were broken and they didn't feel anything at all. This year is extraordinarily different. Not long after Zhou Ranran sent Zhang Yuling away. It was Chinese New Year, and no one was at home, so they all went out to play. Even Wang Qi has already gone to rest at this time. After all, tomorrow will be very busy. On the first day of the new year, a lot of people are coming to Zhou Ranran's house. Hearing the sound of opening the combination lock from the other side of the yard, Zhou Ranran glanced outside. The lights in the yard were on, and it was easy to see the figure wrapped in a down jacket. After Li Yuan came in, he felt the temperature of the room and took off his down jacket. It smells like smoke. Zhou Ranran helped him hang up his down jacket. Li Yuan warmed his hands and said, "I don't smoke. There are a bunch of old smokers over there, and I can't do anything about it. I seriously suspect that I didn't win money today because I was smoked too hard." Zhou Ranran grabbed Li Yuan's hand and put it on his face. "It's ice cold and very comfortable. Maybe it's a little hot at home. Didn't I cause you any trouble last time?" "No, Yuling has known about it for a long time." Didn't you let her see the bank card balance in the first place?" "When?" "The year before last." Zhou Ranran sighed and said, "I didn't show it to her." "Well, she is very attentive." Maybe Zhang Yuling glanced at a payment text message accidentally, and she could find the content. It is also common for the two of them to chat together and go shopping together. Zhou Ranran has a very careless character, while Zhang Yuling looks simple, but is actually very thoughtful. I can't say he is an old yin coin, but at least he is half of it. You've lost a little weight. As long as you don't lose weight elsewhere. Go, I finally wanted to chat with you for a few words, but you took me astray again. Oh? Shall I go then? Zhou Ranran. Okay, actually I have a little idea. A little? I really want to. A rare opportunity to chat about anything. When we enter the sage time, there will be plenty of time to chat. Li Yuan could only stay for 2 or 3 hours, and had to go back to catch up on his sleep. On New Year's Day, his family was also very busy. Half an hour later. Has Sister Ran followed others to fights recently? I'm not sick, why are we fighting? That looks good, I've changed my mind. I didn't fight because of you little brats before, right? I didn't expect that when we were young, you were all cowards, but when you grew up, you all became tough. Tough? Besides me being tough on Sister Ran, who else is there? Jo Ran wanted to say something else, but quickly came to her senses. Is there something wrong with you? But when Li Yuan said this, she immediately felt uncomfortable again. Get up, work, hurry up. Aren't you a bad student? Let's see how bad you can be. Li Yuan is indeed a bad student. The main reason is that there is a Cao Yuan who is born to cause trouble. How outrageous is Cao Yuan? She even asked Li Yuan if she wanted to talk to a few more boys. When the two of them were together, she called those licking dogs. As a result, Li Yuan stopped him. That was too much. To put it bluntly, Cao Yuan just wants to please him as much as possible and doesn't care about how others feel. Li Yuan is only willing to accept gifts from stakeholders and satisfy himself by humiliating others, which is not what he wants. That time, he once again proposed to Cao Yuan that she wanted to fall in love, and if he still agreed at any time, he completely curbed the crazy thoughts in Cao Yuan's heart. Li Yuan doesn't know what Cao Yuan is thinking about now, but he will definitely not think about it in that direction anymore. At 3:30 in the morning, Li Yuan left Jo Ran's house wrapped in a down jacket. Through the lights on the roadside, he saw some snowflakes falling. Although they were still very small, in the dry and cold weather these days, once the snow fell, it would probably take a long time to melt away. Sleet is not necessarily heavy, and dry and cold snow is generally not very light. When I got home, I saw Jo Wan and Jo Ran's mother making dumplings in the living room. After seeing him come back, Jo Wan asked, "The show hasn't ended yet?" Li Yuan knew nothing, he had been sneaking out for more than 3 hours. Not yet. My dad kicked me out because he thought I was unlucky. Then you go and wash up and go to sleep. I'll call you again after 9 o'clock tomorrow. Good. Li Yuan was too lazy to go to the corner to take the elevator, so he took the stairs directly to the second floor. After entering the bedroom, he took a shower first, and then quietly came to the bed. Just as he lay down, Zhang Yuling hugged his neck. "Happy New Year, hubby." "Thank you, wife." Li Yuan pulled the quilt and rubbed Zhang Yuling's hair. Maybe all this has been prepared a long time ago. After driving herself off the field halfway, Jo Ran was called over by her mother again, as well as Zhang Yuling, who hadn't slept yet. Enough is enough. Some feelings have already sprouted, and now they have grown a lot. Although there are many side buds, which will take away some of the nutrients, Li Yuan is very confident at this moment that it will grow into a towering tree. He always thought he could control Zhang Yuling. Now he felt like he was being controlled. New Year's Day. There is a tacit understanding in the village not to set off firecrackers so early, and they don't start setting off firecrackers until almost 9 o'clock. Almost every household drives to the entrance of the village to pick up some of their relatives, and Li Wanhe is no exception. He didn't come back until after 5 o'clock, and he stared in confusion for 3 hours. But he seemed to be in a good mood. Even though it was still snowing, he arrived at the security booth at the entrance of the village at around 8 o'clock. Qinghe County was still represented by Cao Ping, who went to Li Yuan's grandparents and Zhang Yuan Qiao's place first, and didn't arrive at Li Yuan until almost 10 o'clock. At this time, many people had come to Li Yuan's house. Cao Ping knows Yu because this guy has always been the spokesperson of Qingtian Group. But he didn't know Yao Yingsong, and he just felt that this guy was a little too young. Li Yuan just came over with the child in his arms to meet them, and then they chatted by themselves. During the chat, Cao Ping realized that he had met his opponent. How come Yao Yingsong is so official? He is completely different from a pure businessman like Yu, and he can feel it after just a few words. But Yao Yingsong said that he was the vice president of Qingtian Capital. Isn't Qingtian Capital a private company? At around 10:30, Several people came from Ho Wenbin's side. They first went to see Zhang Yuanqiao, and finally came to Li Yuan's side with Zhang Yuanqiao. We have lunch here. Zhou Wan is already busy in the kitchen, and Zhang Yuling is helping. Li Yuan's grandparents will come over later, and the table will definitely be full at noon. This is a pure family banquet. No matter whether Zhou Wan's cooking skills are good or not, being able to serve it represents her status. Cao Ping originally wanted to go back, but after looking around, he shamelessly stayed. Li Yuan could be said to have been busy these past few hours, feeding the child. When he saw that the child was uncomfortable, he first thought about whether he had peed or had a bowel movement. Once this happened, he would be too embarrassed to call Zhang Yuling. After all, Zhang Yuling had been washing vegetables downstairs, so he could only bite the bullet and do it himself. What I love most about raising children is that they fall asleep. They fall asleep just by coaxing them with a few words. They are simply the ideal type of child in the world. Obviously, this guy Zhang Shu doesn't belong to that kind. In the end, the guy's name was changed, just by one word. According to Zhang Yuanqiao, it was not good to have a name with a sensible person, but he liked the tree, so he kept it. It doesn't matter whether it is a straight tree or a crooked tree in the future, as long as it is a big tree, it will be useful in the future. No matter how bad it is, he can still be used as firewood. The bottom line is the woodcutter in his name. From just one name, Zhang Yuanqiao has already decided his great-grandson's future. The bottom line is him. How high the upper limit is, it's hard to say. During the meal, Zhou Wan freed up her hands to take over the child. Li Yuan walked downstairs, greeted everyone, and sat down. Zhou Ranran was a little confused about how her family had received a bunch of gifts inexplicably. She didn't know many people at all. It's okay that Cao Ping came over to give gifts. After all, they are all from the same county. She has also contributed to purifying the county environment and integrated a group of gangsters into a self-media company. But what does it mean that Ho Wenbin and the others are also sending gifts? I am not familiar with them. There are also Yu Yu and Yao Ying Song, these two have never even met before. Fortunately, she didn't have to think about returning gifts. After all, these must be related to Li Yuan, and returning gifts was something Li Yuan should consider. She looked helpless as Lu Hao and a few others were teasing the children. What were these guys doing so early? Not to mention, when Li Yuan came back in August of the year before last, as long as they had some opinions, it was a completely different scene now. How many of them could be missing from Li Yuan's family dinner? During the Chinese New Year last year, this group of people had already reacted, but none of them were particularly proactive. This year, I came to her house on the first day of the new year, and it was too late to take the initiative. There was nothing she could do. Let's just mess around like this for now and see if there is a chance in the future. Since Li Yuan revealed his identity as the richest man, it has been almost impossible to get into Li Yuan's side, unless the interests are related. What benefits can this group of people bring to Li Yuan? Even Lu Hao was fed by Li Yuan. Now, in addition to owning a house in Zhangzhou, the family also has tens of millions in debt. For Lu Hao, it was already a wild start without doing anything, but in the end he was ruined. If you want to reach your previous position again, you may not be able to achieve it in 10 or 8 years. 10 or 8 years later, where will others be? Lu Hao was born with advantages that were different from others. Looking at Ho Wenbin and the others, they were still unhappy with Li Yuan, but now they are on the table. At this time, Li Wanhe came here and said, "Kizai, your brother Yuan called you to come over for dinner." Wang Qi was stunned for a moment and looked at Zhou Ranran. Zhou Ranran said, "Go if you are asked to go, hurry up, there are people here, and you are not needed." "Hey, okay." Wang Qi immediately ran out happily. She is the youngest, but she is also 19 years old this year. After following Zhou Ranran for a long time, how could she not know what Li Yuan meant when he called her to eat? On the one hand, it was a pity that Zhou Ranran could not go there, but on the other hand, she was used to set a flag. At least she was the only one who could participate. Lu Hao and the others can only watch at the moment. After Wang Qi left, Zhou Ranran saw the envious eyes of those young people, and said angrily, "What are you looking at? I didn't give you a chance, right? Now that you have the conditions at home, you can live a down-to-earth life. There is still a long way to go, so just work hard in the future." Each of these people received 1 million yuan from each household. With the money they had saved before, they could buy a house in Zhangzhou with full payment. They could even buy 3 houses in the county with full payment. In the entire village, the reason why no one dares to cause trouble now is because the money has been provided. The price of 1 million, no matter what, is considered taking care of them. As long as people want to save face, they won't cause trouble. At most, they will ask privately if they can get their money back and ask for a house. Obviously, that's not possible. The house was nominally in the village, but in fact it was controlled by Zhou Ranran. Zhou Ranran even suspected that the group of people who gave her gifts wanted to get a house here. In fact, it is very simple to get a house here, just transfer your household registration here. The premise is that Li Yuan agrees, and the actual controller of those houses also needs to agree. After Zhou Ranran had this idea in her mind, she couldn't let it go anymore. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 293. Tang Jianjun is now very cautious in handling Li Yuan's affairs. As the two sides communicate more and more, the more they can discover how much energy Li Yuan can burst out. He is so profitable that he can even influence a country's economy. They investigated thousands of times and found out how Li Yuan made his fortune. They didn't pay much attention to Li Yuan's little moves. Li Yuan had put on several layers of protective shells, so even if they were really investigated, they wouldn't be able to hurt Li Yuan. They also knew all the details, starting from when Li Yuan made his first money. They don't know how much money Li Yuan has in his hands now, because the amount that can be found in the country is only more than 200 billion. But Tang Jianjun still remembers a phone call Li Yuan made before. He still has $30 billion outside. In just 1.5 years, he has earned more than 700 billion. On average, they earn 466.6 billion a year. If converted, that's $71.7 billion. And this data happens to be the country whose GDP ranked 165th last year. The money he earns is much more powerful than pure GDP. After all, GDP and income are two completely different concepts. To compare purely from macro figures, taking China as an example, the per capita disposable income is only over 30,000, while the per capita GDP has reached over 70,000. Therefore, Li Yuan's number needs to be increased by 20 places. And it can be seen from the data that the further Li Yuan gets to the back, the more terrifying his earning power becomes. In the second half of 2017, he only had more than 40 billion in cash and became the richest man through leverage. But throughout 2018, the funds in his hands exceeded at least 700 billion. How much money will he have at the end of this year? He has invested more than 500 billion in A shares, but he still has more than 100 billion left to invest. At the same time, he has also invested $10 billion in the US stock market. Does he have an account that cannot be monitored? There are more than $30 billion there. Even if the investment returns several billion dollars, it is still an astronomical sum. It is a blessing to get someone who can make money like this, and it is an indestructible weapon. Likewise, Sharp objects can hurt. When using it, you must be careful, and try not to embarrass Li Yuan as much as possible. At present, Li Yuan has no sense of power. Even if he is so interested, he still chooses to return to his hometown and stay on his home territory. But we can't ignore Li Yuan's desire for power. He can come in at any time if he wants. There are many passages around him. They are willing to let Li Yuan come in, and no one in the world will refuse someone like Li Yuan. But they were also afraid that Li Yuan would mess up. This guy has a very strange personality. Sometimes he is willing to give up huge benefits, and sometimes he fights fiercely over small things. It seems to be telling others that I will give you what I want to give without you having to ask. But I don't want to take anything away from him, even if it's a screw. The team specializing in studying Li Yuan's character has now expanded to 16 people. Not only are they paying attention to Li Yuan, there are more teams from abroad paying attention to Li Yuan. They set up at least 6 layers of protective nets around Li Yuan, and the enemy penetrated layer by layer. What puzzled Tang Jianjun was why Li Yuan always blew himself up. When you are with Xu Yanlin, just keep a low profile and insist on making it public. Then Xu Yanlin will undoubtedly become the breakthrough point. Fortunately, there are bodyguards. Another point is that Li Yuan's private life is extremely chaotic. If he enters the powerful class in the future, countless foreign forces will expose his dirty information, and he will probably fall before he can go far. At present, the number of people in the team dedicated to serving Li Yuan has reached 600, just to ensure that Li Yuan is not hooked or threatened by any external forces. Otherwise, what about Cao Yuan and what about Qin Si? How can there be a good one now? Either it was infiltrated, or it was used as a bargaining chip to threaten Li Yuan. Even at this point, I dare not say it is safe enough. Who knows whether those people will use the core chess pieces? The core chess pieces can only be put on the field during the game between great powers. Once used on Li Yuan, it can be regarded as vindicating Li Yuan's name. On the night of New Year's Day, he got the news that Li Yuan went out in the heavy snow. It is difficult to arrange security on a snowy day, so Tang Jianjun suffered from insomnia. He knew that Li Yuan must have slept soundly. How can it not be nice to have so many beautiful girls by your side? Li Yuan's goal was really a waste of his talent. If you behave better in your private life, you will definitely be better than him in the future. Isn't it much more fun to lead a big country in a game than to be the richest man? The resources that big countries can use are unimaginable to Li Yuan. As long as Li Yuan can continue to control them as he does now, it is possible to earn trillions a year. In a daze, Tang Jianjun took a nap, keeping his cell phone by his side. It wasn't until the next morning when he got the news that Li Yuan returned to the village safely that he felt relieved. Originally, this matter should be out of his hands, but who made Li Yuan have a close relationship with him? He couldn't let too many people know about many things, so he could only work part-time. On the 6th day of the first lunar month, the snow had almost melted. It's time for Li Yuan to go to work in Zhangzhou. I arrived in Zhangzhou on the evening of the 6th day of the lunar month and arrived at the company on the morning of the 7th day of the lunar month. As before, a New Year red envelope was sent to all employees. 800 yuan for a good fortune can be regarded as a meal for the employees. Qingtian Group officially comes to the stage on this day. All employees will be re-entered into the personnel status of Qingtian Group, and new regulations have also been released. Article 1, the basic salary will be increased by 30% compared with last year, and will be increased by 5% every year thereafter. Article 2, the woman will take paid maternity leave for 1.5 years during pregnancy, and the man will take paid maternity leave for half a year. If he feels unsuitable after returning to his job, the company will actively make arrangements. If the arrangements are not good, the company will unconditionally renew the one-year contract, and will pay for and compensation if the contract is terminated after 1 year. Article 3, Each employee will receive 1 additional month of paid leave. Article 4, overtime work is not allowed except under special circumstances. Overtime work under special circumstances will be paid 3 times the salary. Article 5, mobile phones and laptops are uniformly provided to employees who join the company. They are not allowed to use electronic products not provided by the company during work. Article 6, for-end compensation will be paid for voluntary resignation or dismissal. When Yu first saw these contents, he felt that Li Yuan was crazy. However, on the 8th day of the first lunar month, after Li Yuan went to Shanghai, Qingtian Group was burdened with a loan of 130 billion. Among them, 100 billion is the fee paid by Qingtian Group to acquire 40% of the shares of Honor Mobile Phones, and 10 billion is part of the prepaid cost of Qingtian Group purchasing Huawei laptops, Mate 20 and new Mate 30 mobile phones in the second half of the year. The last 20 billion is cooperation funds, requiring Huawei to build an intelligent 4.0 automobile production workshop for them, coupled with digital services. Because just half a month ago, MS Men was detained. Li Yuan spent 180 billion this time to win the mobile phone business of Huawei subsidiary with Shenzhen state-owned assets, giving a valuation of 250 billion, a premium of 23%. Boss, I'm a little busy right now. How about you hire another general manager? Yao Yingsong is free. Let him help you share some tasks. The Dai Fund doesn't need him for the time being. But manager Yao will leave after all. We will have our own people by then. Well, okay. But boss, I still don't understand some of your arrangements. Are we going too fast? There is no need to spend so much money to acquire a cheap mobile phone brand business, and why should we purchase them? Many domestic manufacturers are willing to offer discounted prices. Yu has a business personality, and after all, the overall situation has not brought him much benefit. Li Yuan smiled and said, when it comes to poaching people, the people in the front are all careless, and the core is behind. Remember, when you communicate with their engineers, find a way to poach them, whether it's 1 year or 2 years, in short it must be done within 3 years. Li Yuan really wanted to help, otherwise Glory was only sold for 200 billion in his previous life. What would he do if he raised it to 250 billion in this life? But these are all small problems. He hid his most important purpose under the so-called big picture. There is a huge shortage of engineers here. Not only is it difficult to recruit, but there is also no atmosphere for cultivating them. I think back then, rabbits would cross the river by feeling the eagle's sauce. Now that his foundation is so poor, it's normal for him to cross the river by feeling the birch. Boss, even if I'm hired, they still have a non-compete agreement. The non-competition agreement is nothing. If you can poach him, you don't need to worry about the non-competition agreement. I will take care of it. This time, the automotive digital business is led by Qingtian Group, unlike in the previous life, which was basically led by Hua. Boss, what are our standards? The stricter the better. If you can't reach it, learn and make changes. The first investment is tens of billions. We are not a small workshop. If you can't do it, let Yao Yingsong do it. Okay. That night, the new system added by the company was announced. All the employees couldn't believe it. Is it clearly stated that the basic salary will increase this year and will increase by 5% every year in the future? So much maternity leave? The company is not functioning? For severance compensation? In Zhangzhou, the wages of all employees under Qingtian Group are directly on par with those of the same level in Shanghai, Beijing, and Shanghai, or even a little higher. Not to mention various hidden benefits, 1 more month of vacation, which can be adjusted freely, which is equivalent to an increase in salary. As for the mandatory use of electronic products provided by the company, everyone has no objection. As long as it works. Someone exposed Xingtian Group's changes on the internet, and many people couldn't believe it. Of course, some people believe it. After all, this is the richest man. In fact, Li Yuan just wanted to exploit the gap of currency depreciation. If all companies do not raise wages, then the currency will never have a reason to depreciate. If it does not depreciate, the real estate market will continue to be a big thunder. This process may take 5 or 10 years before it will gradually take effect, and he can wait. Once this is leveraged, it will be possible for China's economy to be revitalized. Of course, it's not just this, there are many methods that need to be used in conjunction, but we haven't started yet. His main business this year is to lay the foundation. End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 294. The employees of Xingtian Group are mainly divided into 6 levels. From L1 to L6. L1 is an ordinary employee, such as those responsible for review, manual customer service, and office clerks. After the salary increase, the monthly salary started at 6,000, and the benefits of each department were slightly different, which were not considered by the head office, and those benefits were not paid by the head office. L2 refers to some technical employees. For example, most of the employees at Xingtian Capital start out as L2, with a monthly salary starting from 12,000 yuan. Even some clerks are no exception because they have certain professional requirements. Most traders are L3, with a basic salary of 20,000. L2 and L3 also include some technical staff from Bixin, editors, photographers, screenwriters from Jushin Media, etc. Starting from L4, you will have a qualitative concept, and the basic salary will start at 50,000. L5, basic salary is 80,000. L6, basic salary is 150,000. Currently, in the entire Xingtian Group, very few can reach L4. Basically, starting from L4, contracts need to be customized individually, so the basic salary is just a standard and is only used as a reference. Li Yuan came to Bixin on the 9th day of the first lunar month. At this time, after working overtime, Song Jiajia had laid off all those who should be laid off according to Li Yuan's instructions. At the same time, according to Li Yuan's requirements, Song Jiajia would be held accountable this time. There are more than 20 employees, including 2 management positions. It was much emptier, and many departments were even understaffed. However, Xingtian Group has overall control over the employee system, so subsequent recruitment will definitely be relatively easy and can be completed within a month. Li Yuan just took a look at the situation and compared the situation. Song Jiajia was only responsible for the overall situation, and he had the final say in the structure. Bixin's content output is still too little. Perhaps because the escort business is its main business, the content it produces is nothing more than photos, videos, and sounds of female escorts. The square is very active. After all, the ultimate essence of any social software is social interaction. If you don't come to the square, where would you be? But it will be different starting this year. Last year, we positioned it as a companion game and a shopping mall, just to attract traffic on some platforms in an honest and fair manner. It's not just about saving money, it's about avoiding direct competition with those social software and getting killed. Now it is equivalent to passing the stage of accumulating traffic, and it is time to vigorously develop. Douyan's product delivery, advertisements, live broadcasts, short plays, and novels all add up to a system. Without this system, his traffic would be worth nothing. And these traffics are not supported by young people. Young people are more creators. Do you expect young people to watch advertisements? Consumption. Then you can't even make back the server money. Mainly middle-aged and elderly people. With pensions and a lack of entertainment options before, the current entertainment options are deeply attractive to them. The reason why the accompaniment business is not large scale is that only young people will be exposed to it, and who among the middle-aged and old people will play games. They have passed the age where they need to use their brains, and they don't even bother to read the rules of the game. It's okay to fight the landlords. Almost all of them on the market are scams targeting middle-aged and elderly people. There are live broadcasts of scams targeting the elderly on Douyin, with all kinds of outrageous advertisements, and all kinds of poisonous chicken soup. There are more scams targeting the elderly on Pinksixi, almost all of them. I really wanted to search for something, but almost all of the products that came out were fake. Faced with the old people who had no ability to distinguish, they ate countless human blood buns. You don't even need an account. As long as you place an order, the software will automatically obtain the location and mobile phone number, and then, the goods will be shipped. Just like Grandpa Li Yuan, a link suddenly appeared when he was watching videos. After clicking on it, he started to fight for Zixi, and finally bought cigarettes and wine on it. The cigarettes are tea cigarettes, and the wine is fake wine. The old man didn't know how to enter an address or remember a number, let alone a verification code. There are many scams targeting young people, but young people are good at protecting their rights, while old people are not. The entire internet platform has almost no bottom line. This situation will lead to a large amount of money being taken away, and that group of people will know that they will be liquidated in the future, and they will run away after getting the money. Live streaming platforms offer various inducements to consume, which are no different from gambling. He even shouted the slogan, "Take 50,000 yuan home and honor your parents." Is this to honor your parents? This is really a way of honoring you bitches. 50,000 yuan lottery draw, 6 yuan a bet, the more you raise, the greater the chance of winning. Is this a way that anyone can come up with? Since 2019, signs have appeared and will become more intense in the next few years. Even some officials have stopped cutting leaks. Various routines are used to apply for mobile phone cards, data cards. What kind of commemorative coins with a face value of more than 200 yuan are sold for 100 yuan, and then 200 rubles are stuffed into the commemorative coins? Carrying the postal banner and doing something like this. Li Yuan also knows that the internet around the world has this kind of behavior and is full of scams. But some people don't deserve to end up. The food appearance shouldn't be so ugly. From the beginning of condoning rumors to the end of those people cutting leaks, these things seem to have nothing to do with the economy, but in fact they are all accomplices. This is how consumer credibility is being eroded little by little. Li Yuan doesn't need their credibility, he wants to build his own brand credibility from scratch. From daily consumption to automotive electronics. Originally there were many people on this track, such as Mazi and Dongzi. They are all shaping the credibility of consumer brands. But, the profits were too low, and they gradually entered the ranks of leaks. Almost all started this year. Li Yuan also wanted to thank them for their failure, otherwise he would not have had the slightest chance. Preconceived emotions will apply to everyone. Once you are used to something, as long as the difference is not too big, most people will not change it. The current heart comparison is definitely not suitable for middle-aged and elderly people, but it is fast. He will integrate 3 systems here, which can be switched based on big data and preset based on the age of the real name authenticator. That is, children's mode, youth mode, and middle-aged and elderly mode. There is some content at present, but there is not enough content for middle-aged and elderly people. It all depends on the input of Jushin Media. Jushin Media currently has at least 30,000 high-quality videos in its possession. Although it's not much, except for the children's mode, the content is almost the same as the other 2 modes. The next step is to purchase the rights to various film and television dramas. Li Yuan told Song Jiajia a few words, mainly that Jushin Media should increase its efforts this year and produce as much content as possible. Once he changes the version, it will be a head-on confrontation with Douyin, and Jushin media will definitely be forced to take sides. Either everyone withdraws from there, or they have to sign an exclusive agreement with Douyin. And there is almost no doubt that Bixen will be blocked by many platforms. The internet industry can no longer allow a giant to come in and grab dividends. Whether it's Byte or Penguin. After Li Yuan returned to his residence, he was sorting out his data while waiting for Chen Ji to serve dinner. What we need to do this year is to recruit people. Bixen Mall wants to establish warehousing centers across the country to facilitate the movement of goods by the end of the year. There is also the need to build our own express delivery department, which will be at least at the county level this year and will be supplemented slowly in the future. This project will recruit at least about 100,000 people. Regardless of whether the competition can be accomplished or not, this investment must be spent. Once Bixen meets expectations, the scale of Bixen's review and manual customer service will also be expanded in the future, at least 10 times the current size, and tens of thousands of jobs will be provided. After sorting it out for a while, Li Yuan discovered that it was much more difficult than he thought to have 1 million employees. And the distance from his ultimate goal of 30 million is not even a shadow. If you want to break through 1 million, the sum of all aspects of the automobile industry is still about the same. However, the competition in automobiles is fierce, and Li Yuan is not sure how much of the market he will capture, so it is difficult to grasp everything. Raw material processing can also be considered a big category, but this thing is not that easy to handle and is more troublesome than cars. In terms of scientific research, whether it is materials, software, or hardware semiconductors, the total amount is not particularly large. Finally, after thinking about it, it seems that only agriculture can achieve our goals. Of course, there is also the service industry. The current service industry can be said to be rubbish to the extreme, and even the entire Chinese service industry does not pay attention to quality. Why are the main economic entities in developed countries the service industry and the financial industry? Because the service industry includes so many people, anyone can find a job. It is considered the industry with the lowest threshold for making a living. The financial industry is the most profitable and can make maximum profits with the minimum number of people. Circles and hierarchies are clearly divided. It does not affect the rich making money. Ordinary people will not starve to death as long as they are willing to work, but the upward path is basically gone. Education loans cannot be repaid by normal people. However, the importance of the service industry is self-evident, and Li Yuan also needs to pay attention to the service industry. Especially the real estate service industry. Although he has begun to raise wages, the decline of real estate cannot be changed just because of what he has done. What is supposed to come will still come. When he can recruit millions of employees and steadily increase wages for 10 to 8 years, will it have an impact on the entire economy, and then will it be possible to support the real estate market? Now he just needs to wait patiently for some companies to be hit by thunder, and when the time is right, he can enter the market to pick up the leaks. It is best if others beg him to enter the market. The real estate service industry is definitely a big category, but unfortunately the service ecosystem has not yet been established. Chen Ji brought the food and saw Li Yuan writing and drawing there, so she asked, "It's been a busy day, why don't you go home and take a rest?" "Looking forward to Sister Chen's delicious food, where can I have a good rest?" Chen Ji said helplessly, "It's only a few days after the New Year. You haven't stopped since you came to Zhangzhou. You must give your body some time to rest, so as not to collapse before you are 30. There seems to be nothing wrong with my health, right? I look a lot more tired than I did a year ago." Li Yuan: "It's definitely not because of work, it's because I'm too busy doing other things." During the few days he spent at home during the Chinese New Year, he really didn't sleep well. After all, there were some guests every day, and he had to look for opportunities to catch up. If you can sleep 6 hours a day, You already have kidney deficiency. I feel comfortable being around Chenji, and I get a lot of sleep every day. When I'm with others, I always feel like my footsteps are floating the next day, but when I'm with Chenji, it's fine. After waking up, I feel refreshed, as if I didn't work at all last night. Moreover, Chenji strictly controlled him and would not tease him easily. Although Li Yuan has always thought that the so-called palace techniques are just a gimmick, Chenji is really good at it. After eating, Li Yuan closed his eyes and rested for a while, and Chenji brought him some fruits. After eating the fruit, he went to take a shower, and then fell into a deep sleep under Chenji's soft fingers. Although he was young and many things were not obvious, when Li Yuan woke up, he still felt that his body was more energetic than before. But there is a price, that is, Chenji has no arrangements. According to the past, Chenji would arrange it once every half-month or so, but now it has exceeded the time limit. This state lasted until the end of the Lantern Festival, when Zhang Yuling came from his hometown with his children. Zhang Yuling came back to take the exam and get his degree certificate. I had no time to be busy with my studies last year because I had a baby, but I am free this year. Zhou Wan came with her to help take care of the children. After the Lantern Festival, more projects of Qingtian Group will be launched, and larger-scale recruitment will be carried out at the same time. Li Yuan's main focus is still on Qingtian capital, because as the US dollar drains, A shares will eventually have to follow suit. The price of Mutai exceeded 1,000 yuan. 4 months ago, the price of Mutai was only 600 yuan. When Li Yuan first entered the market, the price was only over 700. This year is also a year for domestically produced cars to emerge. In the past, domestic cars were basically joint ventures, and the brand power of their own cars was not good enough. But in the field of new energy vehicles, we have an absolute advantage. The entire industry chain and even the high-end technology of the entire industry are in our own hands. At present, after 2 years of integration, it has initially achieved combat effectiveness. Although the person who returns to China next week has entered the electric vehicle industry a few years ago, and has the greatest influence. But so far, none of their cars have come out of the production line. What they put out for display is just an empty shell, and the driving scenes shot were cut from other cars. Even the brands his original partners built after returning to China have gradually become symbols of high-end, with the car easily costing 500,000 to 600,000 yuan. Although there are few people paying for it, the car is really handsome. There is no doubt that Li Yuan placed generous orders for all major domestic new energy vehicle companies, and the orders were all for high-end models. He won't drive those cars for the time being because of unknown risks. However, there is absolutely no problem in providing cars to company employees. He hopes that the new energy vehicle industry chain will be integrated faster, so his car may be available next year. His current goal has always been very pure, so pure that he hopes that those advertisers who have suffered from the plague will stop using imports as gimmicks and selling points. Thought this was 30 years ago. I think about cultural invasion and concept invasion all day long. As a result, countless people are still bragging about how good the third ant is on the internet all day long. Times have changed. End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 295. Times have changed, not just by Li Yuan's words, but by facts. Even though it's only 2019. They brag about how awesome the bearing steel from the island countries is, but they don't know that the bearing steel from the island countries is imported from China and is OEM. For example, Chinakajima, an island country, has focused on the mechanical field for 80 years. They produce half of the world's bearing steel balls. However, last year it was revealed that the bearing steel they purchased came from Luoyang Bearing and had been purchasing it for 3 consecutive years. Anyone who is really engaged in this industry knows that these products exported domestically will be stamped with steel stamps. However, when exported to island countries, they are not allowed to stamp them. Why? It's convenient for them to OEM. The quality of many domestic products is absolutely top-notch, but they lack brand power and can only be EM'd for big foreign brands, and then they are said to be of poor domestic quality. If you compare something purchased for tens of dollars from Pinksixi with something imported worth tens of thousands of dollars, will the quality be the same? If China was that weak, it would not be sanctioned. According to Li Yuan's principles, if import is used as a selling point, no matter what product it is, just pass it. Even the recognized optical lens giant Zeiss relies on domestic raw material supply. Li Yuan doesn't hate trading with foreign countries, but he hates those media people. Advertisers are crazy about implanting the concept that importing is good into the hearts of Chinese people. It is not easy for everyone to make some money, and it is not cost-effective to pay for so-called imports in vain. Moreover, if China wants to truly develop, it must lower the price of imported goods. Let them remove the so-called brand power and only pay for the product itself. Otherwise, the more you consume those branded luxury tax products, the poorer your family will be. A very simple example, the same product costs RMB 500 domestically and RMB 1,500 imported. Even if tariffs are removed, foreign countries will still earn more than RMB 800 for a single item. The profit of the same single product made in China is less than 100. Not counting the profits earned by the company, the same employees in other countries can share a salary of 800 yuan, while the same employees in China can only share a salary of 100 yuan. This is not just for individuals, but for entire economies. After all, if those employees have high wages, they will spend it elsewhere. If they make money elsewhere, they will go elsewhere. After several or dozens of circulations, this profit can fall into everyone's hands. This is the economic structure. Foreign countries make huge profits through high value-added products, and can earn a lot of money with little effort. Even though we have had trade surpluses for several consecutive years, the dividends from the trade surplus are not big enough to feed everyone. Unfortunately, we are currently at the point of global downturn. The economy, which has only been improving for a few years, is about to face a crisis. Buying domestic products of the same quality is to promote domestic economic circulation. And Li Yuan must be serving the internal circulation. Otherwise, the bigger his stall becomes in the future, the more miserable his death will be. Li Yuan gave Gu Dongsheng a ride and sent him to the airport. Then he got back to work. His work schedule was normal. Whether it was the Gdai fund of Qingtian Capital or the account Chen Ji was responsible for, he would give orders during the day and ignore them at night. It is certainly impossible to maximize profits, but it can maximize his personal comfort. In this rising stock market cycle, he only needs to operate 4 A-share funds. No one made trouble, but he didn't get used to it. In this cycle, he really wanted someone to come and cause trouble for him, so that he could earn more benefits. Even the people on Wall Street are very honest and work hard to make their own money without caring about others. They know better than anyone else that if they cannot make money in this market situation, it means losing money. Because the US dollar is draining, the money in your hands has become worthless. Li Yuan takes a look at UU's report every day. Almost every day brings new situations and new investments. Qingtian Group is also seeking more and more money from banks to borrow money. The bank is happy to hear this and is not afraid that Qingtian Group will not be able to repay it. This is high-quality credit. If the bank doesn't lend the money out, the money can only be stored there, just a bunch of numbers. Li Yuan supervised the progress of the project and was also paying attention to the situation on Gu Dongsheng's side. In 2 months, he will ask Gu Dongsheng to come back with the goods. Not much, just 3,000 tons. The current price of this thing is 13,000 tons. Next year it will soar to 700,000 a ton. But it's not interesting. Li Yuan never thought about making money from this thing. He just didn't want too many rip-offs to buy goods from abroad at high prices. In the end, a run occurred, resulting in a surplus of domestic melt-blown fabrics that were given away and no one wanted them. The shelf life of this product is very short. Even if the storage conditions are good, it will be useless in 2 years. The shelf life is usually half a year to 1 year. There are a lot of materials for protective clothing in China and there is no need to import them, so Li Yuan plans to purchase them directly in China. Until the end of June, everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. In addition, Li Yuan was low-key and did not reveal his true intentions, so everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. Until the day of Zhang Yuling's graduation ceremony. Zhang Yuling completed his defense a few days ago and will be awarded a degree certificate today. Early in the morning, Zhang Yuling came to the school and sat and chatted with the people in the research group. She actually wanted to bring her children, and she also wanted Li Yuan to attend her graduation ceremony. I was just worried that Li Yuan would be busy with work and having children would have a bad impact on Li Yuan, so I didn't tell Li Yuan in the end. There are only 6 people in her subject, and they are led by a tutor, who can be regarded as classmates. After all, because she chose to be the class teacher before, she had no concept of the class at all. During the past 6 months of doing the project, she had a good relationship with the current research group and became classmates. There are a total of 4 girls and 2 boys in the research group. There are currently 6 groups in total. This includes the general group, which means bringing along mentors. However, privately some girls created another group, but there was no tutor in it. Later, as they often communicated with each other about topics, the 4 girls gradually evolved. Anyway, Zhang Yuling has already created 2 additional groups with 3 other women. It doesn't take much to think about it. The other 3 girls must have another group, and she is not in that group. As for whether there is a group for boys, she doesn't know yet. Judging from the chat, there is a high probability that there is not. She waited for a while, and a tall girl came over. She was Peng Shanshan from the research team, and she was accompanied by a handsome boy. Peng Shanshan smiled and said to Zhang Yuling, "Yuling, please introduce me to my boyfriend." Peng Shanshan's eyes were a little provocative. When the 2 boys in the group saw that Peng Shanshan had a boyfriend, they smiled on the surface, but felt as if they had eaten coptis. There are only 2 girls in the group who are the most beautiful. Needless to say, Zhang Yuling and Peng Shanshan are also goddess level. The 2 of them chased each other countless times in private. As a result, I didn't get even the slightest chance. As for chasing Zhang Yuling, it's too beautiful, I won't dare to do it for the time being. I can only find excuses to chat in private. As long as Zhang Yuling replies, I will be happy for several days. I feel more hopeful about tomorrow and there is hope of catching up with Zhang Yuling. Then, as Zhang Yuling became busy and did not reply, their inner impulses slowly cooled down. But as soon as I see Zhang Yuling again, I wake up again. After seeing no hope at all from Zhang Yuling, they invested more energy in Peng Shanshan. Invite you to dinner, give you milk tea, help with projects, write papers. Even the 2 boys were jealous. On graduation day, Peng Shanshan brought a boyfriend over? Heartbroken. Zhang Yuling didn't care about Peng Shanshan's provocative eyes, stood up and said with a smile, "You said you would find a boyfriend after graduation, and you really did what you said. Now I am the only one left. The other 2 girls in the group also have boyfriends, and they will bring them with them today." The school considers the situation of graduate students, many of whom have family members, so there are 2 positions. Peng Shanshan said proudly, "Of course, there are many people chasing me, I just keep picking." The boy next to her smiled awkwardly, he was obviously an introvert. He didn't know why he was suddenly pursued by Peng Shanshan. He had never been in love and had no resistance to a royal sister like Peng Shanshan. Zhang Yuling had no doubts, because Peng Shanshan's boyfriend was indeed handsome and looked a few years younger than Peng Shanshan. Soon, two other couples arrived. The other two girls are average looking, and their boyfriends don't have particularly outstanding looks either. And it was obvious that their boyfriends definitely looked young, at least 27 years old. After all, they were all in their mid-20s. Wow, Peng Shanshan, where did you find this handsome boy? Aren't they all over the streets? Husband, please say hello to everyone. Peng Shanshan said something to her little boyfriend next to her. Peng Shanshan's boyfriend immediately said, hello, senior, my name is Feng Zhengkai, and I will be a junior in college soon. There was no doubt that the other two girls had envy in their eyes. Little puppy. And he's so handsome. Subconsciously, there will be comparison. If there was no such mentality, there would not be so many groups. For most people, they are petty and like to compare themselves with those around them. How can you have a sense of superiority without comparing yourself? How can you express your happiness? Regardless of whether they are men or women, they are all the same. They subconsciously like to show off, and they will feel jealous when they see others doing better than themselves. It's just that some people won't show it, won't say it, let alone do anything. And some people can't help but show it or even say it. At this time, it was obvious that the other two girls were outclassed by Peng Shanshan, and there was no way to refute them. The fact is here, other people's boyfriends are more handsome and younger than their own boyfriends, and may even be richer than their own boyfriends depending on their conversation and clothing. Therefore, the two of them immediately smiled and said to Zhang Yuling, Yuling, you are so beautiful, why don't you bring your boyfriend? For such an important occasion, it is a ritual to bring your boyfriend over. This is aimed at Zhang Yuling. Even though Zhang Yuling is much more beautiful than them. But the sense of superiority at this time is whether or not you have a boyfriend. Anyway, after graduation, no one knows anyone. Zhang Yuling. I'm not like you, how can I have a boyfriend? One of the girls pointed at the two boys next to her and said, why don't you choose one of them? Otherwise we all take a group photo with our boyfriends. You look too lonely. The two boys were embarrassed to speak, but their eyes were full of expectation. They even have to thank those two girls. If it weren't for this occasion, they would never dare to say anything to Zhang Yuling. Zhang Yuling quickly waved his hand and said, it's great that we can all be classmates. Although Zhang Yuling spoke in a low tone, his tone of rejection was beyond doubt. One of the boys lowered his head spinelessly, while the other boy mustered up the courage to say to Zhang Yuling, classmate Zhang, I actually. At this moment, a voice came from the side. Hey, Zhang Yuling, I heard you said everywhere that you don't have a boyfriend. Hearing this voice, Zhang Yuling immediately turned his head. Li Yuan, wearing a sun hat and taking off his mask while talking, appeared in front of her. Why are you here? Zhang Yuling hurried over. Everyone around was stunned. Li Yuan? Which student at Zhangzhou University doesn't know Li Yuan? This is a man who single-handedly lowered the admission score of Zhangzhou University by 20 points. The richest man in the country. Worth 290 billion. But this guy is still too young, he is only 21 years old this year. A billion girls' dream. Li Yuan smiled and said, can't I come? When he came, he was wearing a hat and a mask. The reason is that I am afraid of being attacked by unknown objects while walking on the Zhangzhou University campus. After all, he has a grudge against Zhangzhou University, at least on the surface. All Zhangzhou University students have reason to hate him. It was he who made it 20% more difficult for Zhangzhou University students to find a job after graduation. People would make fun of Li Yuan whenever they met. Can. Zhang Yuling felt a rare embarrassment. She really didn't know how to express her emotions at this time. Peng Shinshen's boyfriend suddenly came to Li Yuan and said excitedly, "Is it Yuan Shen? I'm so excited to see you. Can you give me an autograph? You are my idol in life." Li Yuan smiled and said, "Okay, but I have to wait a moment. I still have some unfinished business here." After Li Yuan finished speaking, he looked at Zhang Yuling again. "Hey, did you just say that you don't have a boyfriend?" Zhang Yuling. She estimated that Li Yuan had just heard it. When you say you don't have a boyfriend, isn't it for his own good? However, facing Li Yuan's question, she still said a little embarrassedly, "Yeah. Then who do you think I am?" Zhang Yuling. Did this guy take the wrong medicine? In front of so many people, do you have to dwell on this issue? He doesn't want to hang out outside anymore? Seeing that Zhang Yuling didn't reply for a long time, Li Yuan directly grabbed her hand. At this moment, Zhang Yuling completely let go of his psychological pressure. He showed a sweet smile and hugged Li Yuan's arm. "You're so cruel." Then, Zhang Yuling brought Li Yuan to the students in the research group and said, "Here, let me introduce to you, my husband." End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 296. Just like what the boys majoring in finance said to Zhang Yuling on the college wall 2 years ago when they confessed their love. XX is Zhang Yuling's husband. Now this sentence came out from Zhang Yuling's mouth. She was actually quite helpless and had never thought of making it public. After all, she was very happy now. If it was made public, it would put inexplicable pressure on Li Yuan. But Li Yuan looked like he wanted to make it public, so she had no choice. Isn't it just that you say you don't have a boyfriend outside? If you say you have a boyfriend, you will definitely be persuaded to pull him over. If you can't pull him away, you will be told that you are lying. Does she still know about the little thoughts between girls? It's just that she doesn't care much about it on weekdays, and she has recovered well recently and likes to make some friends. According to her previous personality, she was not familiar with the research group. The person who issued degree certificates to Zhang Yuling and his group of graduate students today was Hu Qingming. After all, he was the dean. After Li Yuan appeared, the news quickly spread throughout the auditorium. Hu Qingming had been preparing a speech he was waiting for later, but now he had to make a phone call to the school. Very simply, this is probably the only way to repair the relationship with Li Yuan. The education system has a long history of arrogance, especially in key universities. Li Yuan had great potential at the beginning and was worth more than 1 billion. But they didn't expect Li Yuan to realize his potential so quickly. Almost in the blink of an eye. If Li Yuan is still worth only 1 billion, it won't hurt them. If Li Yuan cared about face, he would have made up the money when Zhangzhou University spread the news. But there are not so many ifs in life. Li Yuan will not be coerced by public opinion at all, and even dares to insist on some trivial matters as the richest man. Zhangzhou University fell into absolute passivity and was nailed to the pillar of shame. Li Yuan came today and showed his identity. Maybe Li Yuan didn't mean to borrow Posia's donkey, but they couldn't pretend they didn't see it. At this moment, Li Yuan is here. Moreover, Zhang Yuling graduated from today, and there is a high probability that Li Yuan will not have a chance to come back in the future. After he made the call, someone from the school came immediately. At this time, the graduation ceremony has begun. Hu Qingming was supposed to take the stage to deliver a speech, but at this time he had been replaced by the secretary of Zhangzhou University, whose status was at least 6 levels higher than that of Hu Qingming. Li Yuan sat next to Zhang Yuling and smiled slightly when he heard the name announced by the announcer. Zhang Yuling whispered from the side, I have a temporary replacement. Husband, do you want to give me a face? If there is a chance to turn around, I will come next. Okay. Li Yuan did not refuse. If the other party takes the initiative to resolve it, he will not be stingy. Except for the hatred of killing one's father and the hatred of taking away one's wife, there is no contradiction in the world that is irreconcilable. Even for a small group of people, both hatreds can be reconciled. In this matter, Li Yuan obviously belongs to the majority. Zhang Yuling leaned on Li Yuan's shoulder and said, how did you know I graduated today? She never had the chance to ask. Li Yuan had been pestered by many people for autographs and photos. Usually you do projects and other things, and at most you are busy at home. These days you go to school every day, and it's the final exam stage. I must know that you have to defend it. Then how do you know about today's graduation ceremony? Graduation ceremonies for graduate students are very niche and not many people pay attention. The atmosphere of school examinations is very strong, and few people know about graduate school graduation. I dressed up specially today. Either I'm participating in some activity or there are people outside. No matter what it is, I have to come over and take a look, right? Zhang Yuling. Is Li Yuan's reason so weird? But he pays so much attention to himself? I thought he wouldn't notice some details anymore. Other aspects are quite rough, but life is so detailed. Then if you are scolded again in the future, it has nothing to do with me. I didn't ask you to come forward. You had to come out on your own. What are you being scolded for? You call me a scumbag. If you hang out with this person or that person every day, tomorrow the whole internet will start calling you names again. Then do you have to reward me? I did it for you. Stop. You took the initiative on your own and it has nothing to do with me. You can reward me, but if this matter causes trouble for you in the future, don't put the blame on me. Okay, it's not up to you. Li Yuan came here today mainly because he felt that if he missed this opportunity, he would most likely not have the chance to confess to Zhang Yuling in the future. The less baggage a person has, the easier his life will be. Even if he is called a scumbag, he doesn't care. But as the scale of the company grows, he can no longer show his scumbag attributes, at least not in public. Not only will it have a bad impact, it will also cause you a lot of trouble. Before this year, it was also his last chance to show his face. When someone realizes that he is too strong, he must keep a low profile and not make excuses for others. The speech on the stage seemed much simpler, and soon it was time to issue master's degree certificates. When Zhang Yuling went up to get the certificate, the audience suddenly burst into loud cheers. After the school leader issued the certificate to Zhang Yuling, he said, "Classmate Zhang Yuling, everyone is calling for you very much. Do you want to say a few words?" While speaking, the microphone was already handed to Zhang Yuling. Zhang Yuling knew what this meant, so he took the microphone and said, "Actually, the classmates are not shouting loudly for me, but for my husband. To be honest, my graduation topic is very simple, and I barely passed the defense. As a student majoring in finance, I am actually at the bottom. If you want me to say a few useful words to everyone, I will most likely not be able to say them. How about I ask my husband to say a few words on my behalf?" After she finished speaking, she looked at Li Yuan. The scene resounded with calls again. The cheers couldn't stop until Li Yuan got up. For college students, the most powerful person most of them come into contact with in their lifetime is most likely their college teacher. Many university teachers have high social status, especially those at the professor level. Other companies ask them to be consultants, and they are paid at least hundreds of thousands a year. If they are hired to give lectures to company employees, a class starts at tens of thousands. Only when I was lecturing in school, I had the lowest salary and the least pretentiousness. Li Yuan knew that Zhang Yuling would take the initiative to help resolve the conflict, otherwise there was no need for her to take the initiative to speak. Zhangzhou University might just be a test, and Zhang Yuling took over immediately, saving Zhangzhou University a lot of trouble. Almost 20 seconds passed before Li Yuan stood up from his position. The heat wave of voices in the auditorium hall reached its peak. Li Yuan has never experienced the feeling of being cheered, and his corporate culture does not engage in this kind of behavior. But it does sound quite satisfying. When he walked onto the stage, the secretary of Zhangzhou University immediately came over to shake hands with Li Yuan. Li Yuan didn't refuse either. After shaking hands, he took the microphone from Zhang Yuling. Someone brought a chair, but he didn't ask for it. I don't know much about other aspects, but I do know a little bit about finance, a little bit. The sound came out. You, Li Yuan, said you have some understanding? It's clear that modesty is too much. In my opinion, there should be no more than 0.3 people in the world who know more about finance than me. Rounding it off, that's 100 million. It's not an exaggeration to say they have a little understanding, right? Li Yuan's next sentence directly put this lie in perspective. At this time, he dares to say this because he still has a forward-looking vision. This kind of vision will not be outdated in the next 10 years. In other words, he will always be from God's perspective during these 10 years. Rounding is always an outrageous concept. Some people are 99% sure of winning, and rounding up is equal to death. He also rounded to the same meaning. Young people understand that only the older ones think. The financial system has been with us since ancient times. However, truly modern finance began to appear in the middle of the Tang dynasty. In the early days of the Tang dynasty, it was the Guanluo group that supported it and established a rent-raising system. That is to say, part of the fields are allocated to civilians and part of the fields are rented to civilians. The civilians only need to hand over a certain amount of grain. However, grain has a big flaw, that is, it runs very slowly and is very troublesome to operate. At this time, the power of finance is not yet obvious, and it cannot exert its true strength. It was not until Li Longji's period that he completely suppressed the Guanluo group, carried out reforms, and changed it to a donation system. That is to say, the grain that should be paid taxes can be directly converted into money and handed over to the government. The entire efficiency will suddenly increase, and the financial attribute will begin to explode with vitality at this time. This is also the reason why the Tang dynasty can still have a prosperous age in the middle period. After all, for most dynasties, the further they go, the more they struggle. Until it becomes tattered and fragmented, and then replaced by a new one. It is a pity that Li Longji made a big mistake. He should not have handed over the operation of the bank, that is, the cash cabinet system to Prime Minister Li Linfu at that time, which was equivalent to handing over the core link of the entire financial system to a private person. Private individuals will always put their own interests first. When the economy reaches a certain bottleneck and growth cannot satisfy their appetite, they will find a way. When your food cannot be exchanged for money in the till, you cannot pay the rent. At that time, we could only sell our sons and daughters, and we could only be forced to give out something more valuable. Li Yuan talked about a piece of history. Some people were confused as to what Li Yuan meant by these words. Do you want to prove it for finance? Prove that this system first appeared in China? Isn't it necessary? This thing exists objectively, and there is absolutely no need to argue about it. But some people still understood. So he immediately asked loudly, Yuan Shen, are you talking bad about our beautiful country? Li Yuan smiled and said, I don't need to badmouth things that exist objectively. What is the core of finance? The core of finance is always to serve entities, so that it can maintain sufficient vitality. Once finance becomes private, if it is a tool for making money, the consequences are conceivable. Someone was dissatisfied and asked, "Aren't you also a capital?" The modern financial system was perfected by others, and most of our textbooks were compiled by them. Don't they know better than us? Li Yuan said, "I didn't say that they don't understand finance. I think we shouldn't be dominated by their thinking, because they have no history to learn from, and I have played many games with Western capital, and every time it is the same I won. Do you know where they lost?" After saying this, Li Yuan paused for a full 2 minutes. The whole place was silent. Everyone knows that Li Yuan won, otherwise Li Yuan would not have achieved his current status. But how did it win? No one can explain this clearly. Even though many people reviewed the situation in the past, they could not clearly see the situation. Finally, Li Yuan said, "I won just when they thought they had a chance to win. They could see all my positions and all my chips. My whole body, even my underwear, was clearly visible." People still don't understand. The more this happens, the less likely he is to win. Why does Li Yuan say that this is the point at which he can win? Is it also a weakness? Without waiting long, Li Yuan continued to add, "Maybe some people have understood it, and maybe some people have not. In fact, it is a very simple truth. When you habitually use a calculator to calculate some data, you cannot do without it. Open. You will have no doubts about any result calculated. When people on Wall Street rely on the open eyes and succeed repeatedly, they feel that this trick is invincible. When they encounter difficulties, the first thing they think of is to use this trick. Tools, use this rule. Although there are rules for trading, human nature has no rules. Many people think that the Western financial system is advanced. Why? Because they have been winning for the past 100 years. Through this system, they harvested the world's wealth. Even though they encountered many dangers along the way, they finally came out and became stronger each time. Just like me, I won and everything I did was right. Even though I am a scumbag, few people scold me, but I still have so many fans, and there are still so many people who regard me, a scumbag, as their idol. In fact, apart from being handsome, I don't have the potential to be an idol at all. In modern finance, it's time to abandon previous concepts. Go and see how they have won the last few games and whether it has anything to do with their system. I'm sure someone will understand by then. That's all I have to say about finance. Although there is not much practical information, I can't just throw out a code here. Strictly speaking, I am still your junior, and I hope that all seniors will have the opportunity to work as colleagues at Prime Capital. We don't need a letter of introduction, we don't need to donate money, and we don't need to go to Lowly Island to toast, just take a photo with me. Some people laughed, some looked serious, and some looked disdainful. It can be said that Li Yuan made his position too obvious today. Many people who are involved in finance praise the Western system to the extreme. When Li Yuan said this, it seemed as if what he studied was rubbish. Li Yuan didn't care at all. Today's speech will definitely spread. He doesn't care if what he says is right or wrong, what he cares about is confidence. As long as someone starts to reflect and stop following foreign capital, he will win. End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 297. This is Li Yuan's first serious speech. Last time at Zhangzhou University, he was just fooling around and didn't say a single useful word. For Zhang Yuling, it is no longer important for Li Yuan to stand up and reveal his identity today, because then only he will be happy. As Li Yuan made his position clear, more than one person was happy. Of course, in the end, Li Yuan will inevitably have to take out a sum of money. But the money is not that easy to get. Li Yuan is willing to spend 300 million, but the premise is that Zhangzhou University wants to open a branch in Qinghe County and at least 1/5 of its teaching staff must be provided. Just talk about this slowly. 300 million is not a small amount of money, and Zhangzhou University is not that easy to refuse. Returning to his seat, Zhang Yuling took his hand and said, "You are so handsome today." "How handsome is he?" "The kind of handsome that makes people unable to control themselves." Zhang Yuling leaned into Li Yuan's ear and said something. "As long as the sound is louder, people around you can hear it." This is the time when Zhang Yuling is most courageous. Then remember to take this dress home later. There is not much difference between a master's degree uniform and a bachelor's degree uniform. They are usually provided by the school and must be handed over to the school before leaving. "Oh, okay, let's grant your wish." Zhang Yuling agreed and soon waited until it was time to leave. There is no doubt that Li Yuan was surrounded again. Fortunately, Li Yuan sent a message to Hu Qingming in advance and asked them to arrange their own car to come in. While he was busy, Zhang Yuling had already taken the opportunity to go out and get in the car. He finally signed countless names, was pulled to take countless photos, and finally squeezed into the car. Then quickly asked the driver to drive home. On the way home, Zhang Yuling was very nervous because the two of them were in the same car. When someone wanted to overtake, Zhang Yuling immediately said, "Let them go first, we are not in a hurry, just slow down. There are pedestrians ahead. Wait a minute, wait a minute." Every intersection was torture for Zhang Yuling. Li Yuan held her hand and could feel her whole body shaking. Finally, Zhang Yuling felt relieved when he arrived at the community garage safely. She still has a shadow over this matter because her parents are like this. Li Yuan didn't speak the whole time. He didn't think there was anything wrong with Zhang Yuling being so sensitive, because life is unpredictable and anything can happen. Especially since there are many people who want to kill him. As soon as he arrived home, the video of his speech at the graduation ceremony had already spread online. Almost all were recorded with mobile phones, and the high-definition camera version of Zhangzhou University has not been released yet. Some videos are clear, some are blurry, and they even have subtitles, so the viewing experience is just okay. There are even many people who specialize in analyzing the content of Li Yuan's speeches, and they have gained a lot of traffic. Li Yuan read several, but none of them got to the point. Basically, I took some of the words he said and analyzed them over and over again. Wen Yuxian also saw the video and watched it several times. Especially the history explained by Li Yuan, she went to check it out. It turned out that it was exactly what Li Yuan said. When the financial system no longer serves corpses and instead focuses on private profit-making, its nature changes. Strictly speaking, the foreign financial system is no longer a real financial system, but a means of private wealth making. The advantage of this is that you can earn a lot. The disadvantage is that if it collapses, it's gone. The last few times the United States was able to win in crises, it was because China was helping. Because China was at an important juncture at that time, it was more important to maintain the stability of the world currency, even if it suffered some losses. Besides, it's not a loss. If you don't help, your losses will only be greater. And next time, will China help? Maybe, maybe not. But it is impossible to help forever. As long as China completely gets rid of its dependence on the US dollar, what is your beautiful country? With these remarks, Li Yuan clearly wants to declare financial sovereignty, kill foreign financial systems with one blow, and rebuild confidence in the domestic financial system. These words are useless to most people, but when they are said from Li Yuan's mouth, the result is completely different. Wen Yuxian originally wanted to learn from Li Yuan and operate a Dai fund because her company had a quota. Although the quota is very small, it is not difficult for her to apply for an increase in the quota. But after reading Li Yuan's speech, she gave up her thoughts. If you can't secure money at home, don't go abroad. It is easy to be accidentally injured by Li Yuan. Her sense of smell is not as strong as Li Yuan's, and she won't be able to react immediately if something goes wrong. The internet has begun to discuss Li Yuan's words in full swing. After all, the comments of the richest man have always been sought after. Li Yuan has retained his position as the richest man, but has rarely made public speeches. Many of the emoticon editors have no material. This time, it's not just Li Yuan's video that has become popular, letters of introduction, recommendation letters, and Lowly Island have also become popular. The old-school public intellectuals in the early years have led many people astray. Why do foreign countries not pay attention to worldly things and live an easy life? The actual reason is that Run is not qualified to talk to others about worldliness in the past. People who meet homeless people in China don't have any sense of the world, and they don't have to worry about home and car loans. Oh, there are no homeless people in China anymore, because the homeless people are all forcibly placed in their hometowns, and receive a fixed monthly subsidy, and they receive grain, oil, and meat during the holidays. It's really a water in dire straits. You can't even think about wandering. You must live in a house, have enough food, and eat well. Qingtian Capital's stock rose a lot. Yu even said with a smile, "Boss, why don't you just give a special speech from now on? If you just give a few words, our company's market value will increase by more than 20 billion. Li Yuan said, "Isn't it your job to give speeches? I see that you have been very active recently. You participated in the Honor New Product Launch Conference. After all, I invested so much money, so I have to keep an eye on it, but it feels good to brag about it. Then you can take on all this kind of work from now on, and the future car launches will also be yours." This. He went to the Glory press conference because he was forced to do so. The reason is that he feels that Honor's corporate philosophy is inconsistent with Li Yuan. He has been pondering for a long time what Li Yuan's philosophy is. In fact, it is very simple. Li Yuan's philosophy is that if everyone is good to him, he will be good to others. He is willing to share with others as long as they support him. But Honor's pursuit of profits is a little too big. So, after forcibly taking the position of spokesperson, he boasted on the spot that Honor is the best mobile phone in the world and has no rival within 50 million. In fact, it was just for Glory to hear, so that they would lose face. But I never expected that such outrageous words would be pursued by many people. Yu hurriedly said, "I will definitely not jump like that at our car launch conference." Li Yuan hurriedly waved his hand and said, "That's what you should do. If you don't jump a little, how can you create traffic? When our car comes out, you will say that this is the best car in the universe. There is absolutely no one. All cars are the best without giving us car shoes, we would be far ahead in every aspect." Yu. Okay, it's a waste of time studying. Li Yuan's philosophy seemed to have changed and he could only start from scratch. Okay. Anyway, this is what Li Yuan said, he can just brag about it when the time comes. While talking, he took out a few small boxes and said, "Boss, I have received some goods recently." Li Yuan opened it and saw that it was still a seed bracelet. Every seed is carefully selected and is in perfect condition from any angle. These stones are purely natural and have not been modified in any way. The skin color is good looking and the whiteness is very high. There is even a bunch that has reached the level of mutton fat. It is a rare thing that can only be found. A thumb-sized one costs 30,000 to 40,000 yuan on the market, and bracelets usually start with 8. Women's ones are slightly smaller, with a dozen pieces in a bunch and a single piece costing 10,000 to 20,000 yuan. How much? The cost is 680,000. Then I'll give you 700,000, thanks. It's not that Li Yuan can't give more, but if he gives more, Yu won't accept it. Yu said with a smile, "Boss, are you interested in anything else?" Jade. No, just Hessian jade, as long as it's pure natural shape, except for bracelets, I'll buy something bigger in the future, and I'll spend 5 million a year on it. No problem. After a while, Yu left, and Li Yuan picked up a few bracelets and looked at them. Yu definitely understands, because of the 4 bracelets, only one is for men and the other 3 are for women. He likes Yu's way of doing things and is very careful. For example, during the Chinese New Year, he specially gave gifts to everyone in the village, but no 1% did this, including Yao Yingsong. When the company gave out gifts, he would always prepare a few extra ones of the best quality for Li Yuan. He took the money he deserved without saying anything. So far, he had never done anything that made Li Yuan unhappy. He did not use his power in this area to make money, and at the same time, it did not affect his concentration on work. So far, Yu is the only person in the company who can flatter me. He made a few calls and asked Yao Yingsong over after asking some questions. After Yao Yingsong came in, he immediately asked, "Boss, do you have any arrangements with me?" Li Yuan said, "Well, I have a shipment of goods shipped back from South America. You can go to the customs declaration on behalf of Qingtian Group. I will send you the detailed cargo list tomorrow." "Okay, does the boss have any special requirements for this batch of goods?" "There are no requirements. It's just normal goods. Just follow the normal procedures. Just don't let anyone know it's from the Qingtian Group. There's nothing to keep secret, those things are common stuff. That is 15,000 tons of lithium carbonate, 3,000 tons of melt-blown cloth, and 20 tons of gold. Other raw materials are also being prepared. In the next 6 months, at least 50,000 tons of finished products and 300,000 tons of raw ore will be shipped back." After all, after Gu Dongsheng went there, he had teamed up with Shen Tianfu to take part of South America's share, and was now preparing to go to Africa to get raw ore. In South America, the most important thing is to be ruthless and cruel. Most people don't have this, so Chen Qi can't get anything done. In Africa, being cruel is secondary, being bold and risking one's life is primary. If Chen Qi goes there first, I can't say that he can get it done, but at least he can get some goods. Now Chen Qi has evolved into a cargo follower, and the main decisions are made by Shen Tianfu and Gu Dongsheng. By the way, I'm not in a hurry. I won't be back until about a month later. I told you in advance so that you can be prepared in case you don't have time. Good. The goods have arrived. Send them to Zhangzhou as soon as possible. Nothing big happened this year. A shares are of the slow warming type, and he is still a scumbag. After finally getting warm, he suddenly dumped the person. It is still in the process of being heated up, and the trading volume of the 2 cities has barely exceeded 800 billion, which is still a little short of 1 trillion, and only occasionally for a day or two. Li Yuan just does some tea every day, operating with very little funds, about 2 to 3 tens of billions a day. Even if the index crashes sometimes, he can bring back some net worth through some advance arrangements. Qingtian Mixed Small and Medium Caps has never been green so far, which is the result of his efforts. The other 3 funds have all been approved. He has been planning funds. This year is not the year to make big money, but the year to expand. The more than 100 billion he had left had been poured in unknowingly. Including the successive subscription funds, the scale of Qingtian capital, excluding DAI funds, adds up to 680 billion. The DAI fund is pretty stable, and occasionally makes some orders to do T. Currently, 6 months have passed and more than 50 points have been earned. At this time, the Nasdaq index has only risen by 16%, and the Dow Jones index has only risen by 12%, and there is still room above. The Nasdaq will rise 36% this year, and the Dow will rise 23%. Even if his butterfly effect exists, at present, it will only make these 2 indexes rise more and will not have a downward effect. It's very simple. Wall Street lost money, or the profits were not in place, so they can only work hard this year to maximize profits. If last year's profits are in place, the pressure will not be so great this year, and they may hold back a little. But after the loss, if the loss is not made up this year, there is no way to explain to investors, and there is no way to explain to myself. The video of his speech is a trap for Wall Street. The heads of Morgan, BlackRock, and Vanguard Capital also saw Li Yuan's video for the first time and asked for someone to translate it. And the translations from all parties are put together to avoid translation errors. They must accurately grasp what Li Yuan wants to express. When Li Yuan said those words to open his eyes, their scalps all went numb. Because what Li Yuan said is probably true. They rely too much on the authority they have. Because he had too much authority and could see all Li Yuan's operations, he was ultimately led by Li Yuan. If they don't know Li Yuan's positions, with so many analysts and so many financial bigwigs, can they still not be able to defeat Li Yuan? The most powerful weapon turned out to be their shortcoming at this time. Guys, Li Yuan is right. We really rely too much on the backend data. If we don't know Li Yuan's positions, maybe we can still beat him. This guy is very powerful, he knows that we can see the chips, all the time deliberately using the obvious bargaining chips to lure us into his trap. We can't go on like this, we are invincible. We are not allowed to look at Li Yuan's positions in the future, otherwise we will never be able to defeat him. Li Yuan was very confident and pointed out our shortcomings. But again, this was the stupidest decision he had ever made. He mentioned the problem so easily that we were not even aware of. From now on, he has no chance of winning with us. End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 298. Li Yuan is not all nonsense. Wall Street keeps looking at his chips, which will really affect his judgment. His statement was more like a conspiracy. Hiding the purpose in the truth will basically not be seen. Moreover, the other party has failed several times and must reflect on it. If you give them a reasonable excuse for reflection, they have no reason not to accept it. Just like they habitually use the method of opening the third eye, they have formed a strong dependence and their overall thinking will be limited. Li Yuan almost did not use any tools from beginning to end. If Chenji counts, then borrow it. Li Yuan didn't know if they would still look at his chips and plan to try the market in 2 months. Because they will look at the chips, which will affect his operation next year. Next year there will be a unique big T, which can double the big money if done well. He doesn't have an accurate figure yet on how much big money he has. Let's see how much money he can earn before March next year. After Li Yuan came back, he handed the bracelet to Zhang Yuling. Zhang Yuling took a look and said, "How can anyone give 3 skewers as a gift? I can just take 1 skewer. Don't you want to give mom a bunch?" Li Yuan's original intention was to ask Zhang Yuling to give a string to his mother. Zhang Yuling said, "Mom is not interested in these jewelry or anything now. I will give them a discount when the time comes." Li Yuan. They didn't go too far, did they? Zhang Yuling waved his hand. How far can they go too far? They serve me every day and are cautious, which makes me feel a little distressed. Sometimes I want to show off with them directly, but I just feel a little reluctant. Don't show your cards, just let it be. Even though they seem to be cautious, they are actually happy inside. There is nothing for them to do anyway, so let them treat this matter as a serious matter so that they won't be bored. When the topic of boredom came up, Zhang Yuling immediately answered, "I have graduated now and I am not going to continue studying. Life is getting boring. What do you think I should do?" Shi Li Yuan, do you have any ideas? I will definitely support you. He definitely didn't want Zhang Yuling to enter his company because it would be inconvenient to manage. We can only see what Zhang Yuling likes. Zhang Yuling chuckled, "I want to have another child." Addicted? I want to have another daughter while I'm young. Then when the Zhangzhou University branch is built, I will go there to be a teacher. I don't want to do anything else. Being a teacher? Are you sure you won't make mistakes? Hey, are you going to mention what happened back then again? I already know that I was wrong, and it will hurt my feelings if I mention it again. Then just hurt. Okay, then I won't hurt you tomorrow. The time is just right today, you give it to me first and then. Zhang Yuling didn't know that Li Yuan didn't want children anymore, or that he didn't want to continue having children in his current state. It's just that she wants to get another one while she's young, because she is 5 years older than Li Yuan. Li Yuan has more and more work, and he is afraid that he will not have the idea of having children in 5, 6, or even 10 years. Another thing she had to consider was that if Li Yuan had another child, she would not want to continue having another child. Taking various conditions together, Zhang Yuling felt that this was the best opportunity. Li Yuan did not escape in the end. A month later, Zhang Yuling could basically tell that he had it again, even though he hadn't gone to the hospital for a checkup yet. Zhang Yuling wanted to wait a little longer. After all, Zhou Wan was also quite busy, so he would wait until Zhang Shu could take care of her easily. But she told Li Yuan in advance. Then, Li Yuan started to get busy. It's only July now. Judging by the time, the due date is probably March or April next year. At that stage, it's very difficult and dangerous to go to the hospital to give birth. The hospital he built in Zhangzhou has been completed, but the staff is not yet in place. He called He Jianchuan, and the next day, He Jianchuan asked for leave and came to Zhangzhou. He Jianchuan was in his 30s, which was considered the most glorious period of his life. His health may have been declining over the years, but everything else was growing rapidly. Li Yuan only understood a little bit about life after he was 30 years old, which is incomparable with women. Because women generally mature 5 or 6 years earlier than men, a woman in her 20s, 14s, or 5s is already very realistic. When I met with He Jianchuan, I didn't make an appointment outside, but made an appointment directly at home. After all, they are all old acquaintances. Brother Jianchuan, sit down quickly. Li Yuan invited He Jianchuan to sit in the room. Zhang Yuling took her children to visit relatives today, and the 13 Taibao were all her relatives. He Jianchuan paid great attention to Li Yuan's phone call. Even though he was the head of the department and had a lot of work on weekdays, he still forcibly turned down the work in his hands and made a special trip here. Li Yuan, when you called me here this time, did you want to ask me about things at the hospital? After sitting down, He Jianchuan went straight to the topic. He and Li Yuan had nothing to be polite about. They had known each other for so many years and knew each other well. From the fact that Li Yuan was willing to leave the house to him, we knew that Li Yuan did not exclude old neighbors like them. Not rejecting it means that the opportunity is great, as long as it is useful. He now has an annual salary of 1 million, a stable job, and a trouble-free life. He can almost sleep peacefully. But people are ambitious. He rarely returned to the village before because he felt that there were no like-minded people in the village and they would not be of much help to him, so he only superficially maintained the relationship between the old neighbors and did not think about having a relationship with his old family. Too deep a communication. He would find someone to help with any big or small things in the village, but he rarely notified people in his hometown about anything he did at home. In theory, it's a loss, but in reality, I just don't want to have too much trouble. Li Yuan nodded and said, I plan to put the hospital into operation as soon as possible, but currently we are short of a helmsman. He Jianchuan was stunned. The good news came so fast that he didn't even react. Li Yuan wants him to take charge of a hospital? He had previously thought about whether he would have any cooperation with Li Yuan or work for Li Yuan. No matter what, working for Li Yuan is much better than his current job. Thanks to the years of neighborly relations, his power, contacts, and resources are far greater than they are now. But Li Yuan asked him to take full responsibility for this matter, which exceeded his expectations. He Jianchuan said, "Then if you are looking for me specifically, you can't ask me to introduce you, right?" He said something conservative. Li Yuan said with a smile, "What did brother Jianchuan say? With you as a good candidate, I don't need to find anyone else." He Jianchuan waited until he got what he wanted and said immediately, "Then I'll give it a try. I haven't experienced what it's like to be a dean. When it's not suitable in the future, you can just find someone to replace me. Brother Jianchuan will definitely be fine. That hospital originally wanted to serve the people in his hometown. With brother Jianchuan's feelings for his hometown, no one will be more suitable for this position than you." He Jianchuan blushed a little, but he couldn't say that he had no feelings for his hometown. "If not, you won't suffer any loss by giving away the money. It just feels like it's not that important. Now that your career is on the rise, your relationship will naturally deepen. Li Yuan's hospital is not small, at least it is much larger than the county people's hospital. And Li Yuan will definitely not make a fuss, the entire hospital will have to invest hundreds of millions in it. The hospital he is currently in is also a private hospital, otherwise he would not be able to get such a high salary. But compared to what Li Yuan invested, it is far behind. The equipment is not good, and various false openings and multiple openings are common. It's not that he can't earn such conscience-breaking money, but he's afraid of being liquidated in the future. Being able to hang out with Li Yuan is what he dreams of. Then I thank you for your trust. I will resign as soon as I get back. Is the new hospital going to ask me to get qualifications or to build a team? When building a team, you don't have to worry about qualifications. They will be here soon. However, in terms of selecting people, I hope brother Jianchuan will take good care of them. I can give them high wages, but treating diseases and saving people is never a trivial matter. I don't want the folks in the village to be cheated or something will happen. The problem is damaging to my reputation." Li Yuan didn't specify any quackery or anything like that, he just focused on his reputation. He is the richest man, and if the hospital is rumored to accept red envelopes for taking credit cards, make over prescription, or misdiagnose a series of problems, it will be a big deal. Most of these can be avoided through management systems. He Jianchuan understood it as soon as he heard it, and immediately said, "Don't worry about this. I have been in the industry for so long, and I will definitely not make mistakes in selecting people. I don't want anyone from a private hospital. Only those who have been inside know how deep the water is. There is indeed a good doctor, but he can't guarantee it, so he simply doesn't want it. Then who else can I turn to? Look for a medical school. Many of the professors in the medical school are very high level, and the medical students have not been exposed to dark things. They can be put to use after a few years of training." Li Yuan nodded and said, "Okay, let's leave it to brother Jianchuan. But I have one request. The obstetrics department should be completed as soon as possible, before the year. Li Yuan has no requirements for the doctor's level, he only needs to build it well. When the time comes, go directly to Tang Jianchuan and ask for the team to come over, that way you will feel more at ease." He wouldn't dare to let others treat his illness unless he had some interest in it. Good. When the matter was almost settled, Li Yuan went to Chenji and brought over today's lunch meal. The two had a meal and talked about some related matters. Li Yuan's salary is not low, and it is in line with the annual salary in private hospitals. This is already very high. After all, most people are reluctant to lose their conscience. But it can't stop the desire to make money. Not only can I make money now, but I don't have to lose my conscience. Overall, there is definitely no big problem. If Li Yuan himself gets sick, a special team will naturally come over. The existence of that hospital is just a place for treatment for his family. Doctors won't use it either. After eating and seeing off He Ji Chuan, Li Yuan came to Xu Yanlin's side. It happened that Xu Yanlin was on summer vacation. As a medical student, it was normal for her to be busy. He didn't say hello. After opening the door, he saw Xu Yanlin chatting with Anna Shen. The moment he opened the door, he vaguely heard something about pregnancy. But when they saw him coming in, Xu Yanlin and Anna Shen immediately stopped the topic. Xu Yanlin immediately ran over, hugged Li Yuan's arm, and said, "Senior is here." Li Yuan touched her head and said, "I miss you. Let me take a bite." "Awoo." Xu Yanlin hugged Li Yuan's neck and took a bite. It doesn't matter whether Anna Shen is there or not. Seeing this scene, Anna Shen silently went to her bedroom. Li Yuan came to the sofa, hugged Xu Yanlin and asked, "Is your cousin pregnant?" Xu Yanlin was a little embarrassed and said cautiously, "Maybe, that test strip is not accurate, so she shouldn't be pregnant." Li Yuan hit her on the head and said, "Are you starting to use probing tricks on me? If you have it, you have it, if you don't have it, you don't have it." Xu Yanlin is actually more scared, and so is Anna Shen. For Li Yuan, Xu Yanlin definitely cannot get pregnant, at least not in the past 2 years. Then the same goes for Cao Yuan, who is not even given a chance. Fortunately, Cao Yuan is more sensible. As for Anna Shen, occasionally. After all, no one wants to come into contact with a beauty of this level across a layer. Pregnancy is normal. After all, you have had good luck so many times, and the safe period is not 100% safe. "Well, yes." Xu Yanlin whispered. Li Yuan said, "Then let her pay attention to her health and remember to call me if anything happens." Xu Yanlin looked at Li Yuan with surprise and said, "Senior, do you want it?" "Why not if you have it?" "Hey, thank you, Senior." Xu Yanlin happily nuzzled into Li Yuan's arms. Li Yuan said, "You are quite happy. Aren't you afraid of being snatched away by others?" When Xu Yanlin heard this, she said, "Senior is not that kind of person. He works very hard, right?" It would be false to say that she was not worried at all, but Xu Yanlin had long known that she had no other choice but to trust Li Yuan. Even if Anna Shen is not pregnant, it will be the same. "Haha, let me see how hard you have worked lately." Li Yuan is the most relaxed when he is with Xu Yanlin, even though he knows that Xu Yanlin will start to have her own thoughts as they spend more time together. From the moment he came here on the day of the annual meeting and found that Anna Shen was the only one there, he knew that Xu Yanlin was becoming more and more assertive. But at least when they were together, both of them could recall some feelings. That feeling must have been true when there was nothing, when there was nothing. No matter how much interest is mixed in, it can't erase that trace. Li Yuan was willing to pay for that feeling, and it didn't matter if he paid the price. "Have you decided where to travel during the holidays?" Half an hour later, Li Yuan asked. "I won't go out for now. When my cousin gets better, I will try to learn how to take care of the children. Although I don't know if I can use it in the future." Li Yuan smiled and said, "You have such good genes. Not having a child is simply a loss for all mankind. Even if it is for all mankind, when you want it, I have to cooperate fully, right? Then, how about next year? When the Chinese New Year is about to happen next year." End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 299. When Li Yuan left, Anna Shen walked him downstairs and followed him all the way to the car. Anna Shen was very worried. Although Xu Yanlin gave her a reassuring look before leaving, who knew whether Li Yuan was deliberately saving face for Xu Yanlin. Meeting in private is another matter entirely. After getting in the car, Li Yuan didn't speak. Anna Shen waited for a while and then said, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't take chances." "Yes, you could have aborted it secretly without letting Linlin know." After Li Yuan said this, Anna Shen trembled all over. She really could keep Xu Yanlin from knowing, she was just lucky. "I feel too insecure around Li Yuan." Xu Yanlin was very kind to her, and she always remembered this. But Xu Yanlin also relied on Li Yuan for her existence. The completely irrelevant feeling made her very confused and panicked. It would be okay if Xu Yanlin had a child, but it is obvious that if Li Yuan doesn't give it to her now, Xu Yanlin herself is not suitable. Who knows what the future will look like? It's okay to leave Li Yuan, but can you really accept the gap of leaving? What do people pursue? Power, desire, money. All these can be satisfied by Li Yuan. As for love? Who can guarantee that they will be able to find Li Yuan after leaving him? At least Li Yuan was not bad to them, and treated Xu Yanlin as he should have. Li Yuan continued, "That is to say, Linlin is generous and doesn't care about you. You can obviously feel that she is a little panicked." Anna Shen said cautiously, "Then I'll kill it. It's already been there, what's the point of aborting it? It's been several months. 3 months. Li Yuan. It's been 3 months and you're still talking about having an abortion?" Anna Shen could really endure it, and it took so long to let Xu Yanlin know. It's probably time to give birth during the Chinese New Year. This time point is very troublesome, because Xu Yanlin may not have a holiday at that time. But that's not necessarily the case. I will give you a contact information later. During the summer vacation, you take Linlin back to my hometown and leave a villa for you there. After October, you go there to wait for the birth. In mid-December when you arrive, no matter what method you use, call Linlin to accompany you and wait until I get back. Both Zhang Yuling and Shen Anna will take risks in the past 2 years. Although that thing has limited attacks on healthy people, there are no targeted drugs at all in the early stage. To put it bluntly, it depends on fate. I'm good." Anna Shen agreed in a low voice. Li Yuan gently grabbed her hand and said, "Don't feel any psychological pressure. I will arrange a nanny for you when you get there. I will also be happy when the child is born." "Thanks." Anna Shen breathed a sigh of relief. It means that she made the right bet. After knowing that she was pregnant, she did not tell her immediately. Waiting until this time to abort the child would be risky, and even the doctor would persuade her again and again. "At least I have a home now. Have you met Chenji?" "Well, we had dinner together during the Chinese New Year. Tomorrow I will ask Chenji to accompany you, and I will also go to your place for dinner in the evening." "Okay." After Li Yuan finished explaining, Anna Shen left. Li Yuan first called Zhou Ranran and asked her to help settle Xu Yanlin there. The second step was to ask Chenji to come over and help take care of Anna Shen for 2 months. Chenji must be interested. After all, Chenji doesn't want children, but she always wants to hold something in her hands. He is not afraid of Xu Yanlin being led astray at all. It can be seen from many things that Xu Yanlin now has a strong sense of autonomy and has plans for herself. He didn't want Xu Yanlin to live like a puppet. He wanted to give her choices and let her play freely so that she could realize her own life value in the future. He felt that Xu Yanlin grew up very quickly. After all, a guy who could score more than 700 points in the college entrance examination must have a much higher IQ than ordinary people. For several days, Li Yuan was busy with personal matters. Yao Yingsong's goods arrived, but he didn't have time to arrange them. Until the end of August, when Zhou Wan learned that Zhang Yuling was pregnant again, she went to the hospital for a checkup, and then returned to her hometown with Zhang Yuling. After all, there are many inconveniences here because of Li Yuan's existence. It would be much easier to go back to my hometown. No matter how difficult it was, I could ask Li Wanhee to help. They were about to have 2 children. The old couple couldn't explain how they felt. Very looking forward to it, very happy. It's just that my life is too fulfilling every day, and I don't have a chance to chat with anyone. That is to say, Zhang Yuling's health has been normal recently. If it takes another 3 or 4 months, he will only be busier. As for the addition of an additional resident in the village, they could only pretend they didn't see it. He. It has almost become common knowledge in the village. It's just that no one mentioned this matter, so for now, just ignore it, so as not to hurt your temper. Zhou Wan and Li Wanhee didn't understand Li Yuan's operations and didn't know what this kid wanted to do. Obviously you have everything and Zhang Yuling is so good, why can't you live a solid life? It can only be blamed on the fact that the children are not like them and are not good people. Li Yuan didn't mind at all that Tang Jianjun and the others knew about this, and even took the initiative to ask them for a team of nannies and doctors. If you need anything, ask them for it. If he cares about his image, it will not be good for his future work arrangements. After all, it is best for him to leave only a profitable image for everyone. Ambition and all that are covered up by shortcomings. With such a big shortcoming, it is useless to be ambitious. It will not pose any threat to them and will only become their best partner. This is also the reason why Li Yuan can openly purchase goods from abroad, and even reaches out to minerals. It's not that he can't do some things, but he has to follow the process when doing them. Now he's completely ignoring the process and someone is helping him straighten it out. The same goes for hospital qualifications, brokerage qualifications, and payment licenses. It was also easy to obtain. It is even possible to obtain a banking license in the future. Everyone knows that Li Yuan poses no threat and everyone is willing to make friends with him. Even if he has some obvious tendencies, no one will care. He was destined to have no chance, as his shortcomings were too great. They didn't even mind that Yao Yingsong and Li Yuan were too close. Not to mention that Yao Yingsong is nothing now, so what if he becomes a big boss with the help of Li Yuan in the future? Could he still continue to work for Li Yuan? People are selfish, do not enjoy their own rights, and are willing to be others' followers. Before we knew it, it was early September. Some of Li Yuan's arrangements were almost all started during this time period. Xu Yanlin went back to school. Because Anna Shen was away, Li Yuan didn't let her come back. At most, he missed her occasionally and would tell her in advance to let her come back. Chen Ji also returned to his residence. Anna Shen had already gone to her hometown villa. There were dedicated people taking care of her there and she was no longer needed. Li Yuan was listening to Yu Yu's report at this time. Boss, we currently have a lot of funds on hand, including lithium carbonate, melt-blown cloth, and gold. At the same time, the car production line is still in the process of debugging, and nearly 6 billion has been spent so far. Although Yu Yu didn't understand it, he was shocked by the entire process of setting up the production line. He has seen a lot. He has seen more things in Qingtian Group in 2 years than in the previous half of his life. He is in finance and has only a superficial understanding of industry. After more than half a year, he finally felt firsthand why industry was so difficult. Every step represents a large amount of knowledge reserves, material reserves, and talent reserves. This production line is so awesome that he is at a loss for words. It has not yet been completed. After the first car appears, it should cost around 10 billion. It's okay to say it can be sold, but if it can't be sold, the 10 billion is almost equivalent to wasting money. The cost of building a car in the early stage is also very high. If the production capacity of this production line is not fully increased, it will be a side effect. Although the car has not been priced yet, and although some software design has not officially started, the cost of the production line is there. Li Yuan couldn't make too much money on the car, and he would lose money if he couldn't sell it. Yu continued, "Boss, regarding design, among the several plans given to you, which one do you think is better?" He wanted to ask about this when he reported work today. He can't interfere with other things, such as how to use those melt-blown cloths. What is the purpose of hoarding so much lithium carbonate? He has two things to do now. The first thing is to build a warehousing and logistics system for Bixen Mall. Product selection is not his thing to worry about, it is Song Jiajia's responsibility. The other one is the car project. Several design plans were given to Li Yuan a month ago, but Li Yuan did not reply. After asking him face to face, Li Yuan said, "Let's fire up the people in the design department. I have already found someone to design it." After Li Yuan finished speaking, he took out several plans from the desk drawer. Yu. He spent a lot of money to hire a dedicated design team, including members of the original Porsche design team. Soon, he took the plan handed over by Li Yuan and was shocked after reading it. "Boss, did you go directly abroad to recruit the top design team?" A total of 4 cars were designed, each with obvious advantages. Some have a sci-fi and fashionable appearance, while others have a calm and atmospheric appearance. Li Yuan said with a smile, "I just found a few people on the internet to design it for me." The 4 plans cost a total of 1,600 yuan. Yu. The majority of the cost was patent fees, which were used to apply for a patent. In the end, it cost more than 20,000. Li Yuan added. He read all of Yu's plans. To put it bluntly, wasn't it just that he copied a little bit here and a little bit there? Porsche at the front, Ferrari at the rear. Looking at some of the cars that appear later, they all have this model. Human thinking has been restricted by those things. What designers value is not practicality, but reputation. A certain brand spent 5 million to hire a designer from an island country to redesign its logo. The result was that the surrounding edges and corners were rounded. No wonder netizens complained that it was so easy to earn 5 million. Li Yuan thought that his vision was not bad, but he felt particularly uncomfortable when he recalled that those models were almost carved from the same mold. Imagination is endless. Almost all of those famous designers are resting on their laurels. They have no imagination at all and can never think outside the box. He spent 1,600 yuan to find someone to design it, and it was pretty good, although it didn't consider aerodynamics and many of its structures were unreasonable. But you have a strong imagination, and you can definitely find professionals to test it later, and then make changes little by little. There is no need to spend 16 million to do a job that can be done for 1,600 yuan. He used to think those designers were really good, but after seeing the finished product, he was speechless. The dirt is falling apart. Private designers all know what grandeur is, but those world-renowned designers don't. Maybe it's not that they don't know, but that they live in their own world and can't get out. Just like writers of novels, some great writers will always be great writers, while some great writers can only rest on their laurels, and the results of their books will get worse and worse. Is it not well written? Not necessarily, it's just that it hasn't kept up with the times and is old-fashioned. It's similar to design, both are industries that rely on brains to make a living. Boss, will these designs be a bit out of quality when we take them out? Yu didn't know what was wrong, but suddenly felt that these designs were a bit ugly, even stingy. Grade is not decided by one person, nor can it be seen through a few designs. Grade is the performance, materials, and services of the car. If you think the design costs money and the users don't buy it, then you force the so-called stuffing design costs onto users is contrary to our company's service philosophy. When Yu heard this, he immediately nodded and said, "Yes, the boss thinks far-reaching, and my vision is really not enough. Your structure is users, there are countless people, and my structure is only as small as a company, or even I can only understand a few financial figures with my eyes." Li Yuan. It's not that he's showing off, but that many people don't realize that times have changed. It's no longer the seller's market it once was. Arrogant companies will eventually pay the price. Under the wave of the times, no scum will be left. You claim to be high-tech, but others buy a rough house for 200,000 to 300,000 yuan, and you need to pay extra for the functions inside. You don't care if something goes wrong. Vehicles are being recalled elsewhere, but not in China. If someone questions your car using real data, you will report it to the legal department. Rely purely on marketing and create a high-tech concept. Unfortunately, there are still a lot of people who follow this method in the domestic market. Whenever a new car is released, the car reviewers on the entire network must first be recharged. If you have the ability to subsidize billions of marketing fees to users, no need to think about it, users will also become your loyal fans. Let the unscrupulous car reviewers make money and harvest users like leaks. I was fooled last time, can I be fooled a second time? Sooner or later, these entrepreneurs will be willing to force all users to dare not consume. Li Yuan will definitely not take this road. Apart from his own traffic, he will not find any car reviewer to promote it. He himself is the biggest reputation. If you don't believe in him, then you are not the customer that his company wants to serve. Just follow this requirement and find someone to test all aspects of the design data. As long as the modified data is above average, it can be done. End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 300. Li Yuan's biggest headache is the delivery system of Bixin Mall. There is currently no way to reach the last meter. Even if it took a year and more than 10 billion invested, it could only barely reach the county seat. But it's enough. The population in the countryside is relatively scattered, so we can deliver as much as we can. The time is approaching little by little, and Li Yuan will pay attention to the situation at Bixin Mall every day. As soon as October entered, he asked Song Jiajia to launch a farmer assisting activity in Bixin Shopping Mall, and directly arranged purchasing personnel to purchase in various places in the country, with a total capital of 100 million. Mainly potatoes, cabbage, radish, and celery. These can be placed easily. At the same time, he also began to prepare some things for his hometown, such as the baby supplies Zhang Yuling will need next, and the family's milk powder reserves. Of course, some good ingredients are indispensable. After all, you won't be able to get it for at least half a year. Even if he had a big supermarket at the entrance of the village, it would be difficult to get the goods. And if you can't help it, don't go out to buy it. There are a lot of pregnant women and babies at home, so you can't gamble on the odds. In November, Li Yuan issued an announcement to reduce his holdings of Song's shares. The originally huge market price of Song's shares was directly brought down by Li Yuan. It only counts after hitting 2 lower limits in a row. In fact, it was Li Yuan who smashed it himself. Song's shares are doing very well this year. After Li Yuan and Song Jiajia broke up last year, the share price of Song's shares fell. And he took advantage of the time when the major shareholder of Song's shares was reducing its holdings, and asked Chen Ji to use the trust account to buy nearly 4 points of stocks there. As the price of pork has risen sharply this year, the corresponding stock prices have naturally also risen sharply. The shares of leading company Makino have tripled, and their market value has exceeded 300 billion. Thanks to the blessing of Qingtian Capital's position and the small size of the market, Song's shares have tripled. The total market value has increased from 12 billion to nearly 50 billion. During this period, Li Yuan slowly cleared out his holdings, and then issued a holding reduction announcement. Prepare to reduce the Song's shares a little more. This operation is somewhat illegal, but the person acting in concert with the trust is not myself, so there is no problem in name. It's just that Li Yuan needs to do something. He must let the market heat go down, otherwise he will be slapped after the year. Not only did he reduce his holdings in Song's shares, he also let the news out to Qingtian Capital that he was ready to step down as fund manager at any time. Among the 4 funds of Qingtian Capital this year, Qingtian Mixed Small and Medium Caps has the best rise, with an increase of 86%. The other 3 funds have increased between 40% and 50%. At present, the total size of Qingtian Capital has exceeded 900 billion, which is too much for Li Yuan. At most, when the market opens on the first day of the year, it will lose 90 billion, and on the second day, it will lose 80 billion. This kind of loss should be avoided if possible. He not only released the news, but also asked Qingtian Capital to lift the purchase restriction. Who doesn't know what kind of virtue he is? There is no purchase limit now. As a longtime fan, I immediately understood and left the store immediately. After making so much money, it's time to stop. For 5 consecutive days, Qingtian Capital lost more than 200 billion in funds, and Li Yuan himself lost 160 billion. The entire A-share market was crushed by Qingtian Capital. Unconsciously, many people discovered that the fund managers of Qingtian Capital's 4 funds had become 2 people, with Li Yuan and Guo Meng both on top. Li Yuan saw that there were still a group of lunatics who were unwilling to withdraw funds, so he immediately posted a message on his social account. "Brothers, it's been too long since I've had my life. How about I take a few months off?" As soon as this was said, the comment section exploded. "Bold, who dares to let Yuan Shen have no life? No life. Yuan Shen, I am a woman. As long as you can continue to operate, I will give it to you. I, Wang Chenzu, the number 6 middle school in Jikan, Shandong province, advise those women who don't give Yuan Shen a life, don't mess with me, otherwise you can't afford the consequences. Yuan Shen, although I am a man, as long as you need me, if you frown, I will lose." Although he joked a lot, he had an attitude of wanting Li Yuan to stay. But most people's hands are not slow. Even the funds that rushed in after discovering that there was no purchase limit 2 days ago are still reluctantly running away. It doesn't matter if you bear the high handling fees. Not only Qingtian Capital, but also more people are being held hostage. Because if you stay in the market, you will be beaten by Qingtian Capital. Qingtian Capital currently has more than 600 billion. No matter what, it doesn't matter if you run out first. If you survive this band, you can enter again later. Therefore, from the beginning of December to the end of December, the entire A-share market was like taking gall, and its face was terrifyingly green. Trading volume gradually slumped, slowly dropping from more than 1 trillion to more than 600 billion. At this time, the Chinese New Year is only 40 days away. Qingtian Capital has withdrawn another 400 billion in funds. Including the losses during this period, the total scale is only about 100 billion. Li Yuan didn't make much money here, and he withdrew a total of 360 billion, including the 40 billion principal of Qingtian Group. Because of this capital, he still owes 200 billion. After excluding the 40 billion principal of Qingtian Group, he has earned a total of 120 billion from the 2 funds in this round, and 80 billion belongs to Qingtian Capital. Anyone who invests will basically receive an annual fee, ranging from 40,000 to 50,000 to 10,000 to 20,000. Fu Zonghai is an exception, because his position in Qingtian Mixed Small and Medium Caps was 140,000 last year, and it has soared to 250,000 this year. It's a pity that he didn't redeem it, and now he only has more than 190,000 left. On the other hand, he also held a position of 1.6 million shares in Qingtian Capital. Last year, he allotted 140,000 shares, and then invested the money from selling the house, for a total investment cost of 740,000. Qingtian Capital has soared by 60% this year, and its total market value has exceeded 400 billion. The 740,000 he originally invested has now become 1.6 million, and the holding cost is 2.05 yuan. Among them, the cost of 140,000 yuan was 1.5 yuan, and the other 600,000 yuan cost more than 2 yuan. At this time, the stock price of Qingtian Capital reached 4 yuan. He could have left with 1.85 million, but he was unwilling to do so. He felt that it was impossible for Qingtian Capital to have such little potential. What the hell is it that the stock price has only more than doubled? In his eyes, Qingtian Capital must be at least over 1 trillion, or even over 2 trillion. And Qingtian mixed small and medium caps will not be like this. This year's market can only be said to be recovering, but it is not very strong. The market has only risen 20 points, just over 3,000 points. What kind of recovery is this? At least 20 more. According to the data of Qingtian mixed small and medium caps, it should be normal for it to double again. So he endured it? Isn't it just a loss of tens of thousands of dollars? He believes that the money he is losing now will come back sooner or later. Once you withdraw now, there will be no quota next time. After all, he didn't seize the opportunity to withdraw at the beginning. Although there is no purchase limit on Qingtian mixed small and medium caps now, he doesn't have the money to add to the position. He didn't tell anyone what he was doing recently, not even his parents, about selling his house. However, he is very famous in the Qingtian Huatong app because he has been showing off his positions in the comment area. He once again exposed his current position, which had dropped to only 190,000, and said, "I still haven't run away." Now that there is no purchase limit on Qingtian mixed small and medium caps, it is definitely a good opportunity for everyone. I only hate myself. I don't have any money, but if I have money, I will definitely take this opportunity to top it up. Someone soon replied, "Brother, have you ever been attacked by Black Widow? As soon as Guomeng comes up, the fund will definitely be green every day." Besides, Yuan Shen's current energy is obviously not focused on the fund, he is just playing around. This after retreating for the first time, it may not come back again. I looked through Qingtian Capital's annual report last year. Overseas market revenue accounted for an absolute proportion. This year, the domestic market may be able to make a lot of money, but in fact, the overseas market is better, and Yuan Shen probably has no less investment. According to my calculations, the total management fees, subscription fees, and handling fees of Qingtian Capital's 4 domestic funds this year should be around 28 billion. This number is not large. With Yuan Shen's wealth growth rate, it will definitely. I won't just make this little profit. If I were him, I wouldn't invest too much energy in the domestic market. Everyone knows the virtues of A shares. Facing the rational analysis of many people, Fu Zonghai remained unmoved. He doesn't believe that Li Yuan doesn't care about the A share market. If he doesn't care, what's the limit? Who doesn't earn management fees anyway? Just let big money enter the market. This time, Qingtian Capital's 4 funds have attracted more than 6 million citizens to participate. This is unprecedented data, and Li Yuan definitely has more than this goal. But for some unknown reason, Li Yuan left the market, causing the A-share market to collapse. The mood collapsed, unless Li Yuan comes back again, otherwise. A large amount of profits were taken away, and the entire market was in mourning. The market that had just climbed to 3,000 points had now fallen back to 2,800 points. In just 1 month. There are still 10 trading days before the Chinese New Year. A video appeared today, but Fu Zonghai didn't care much. Although it's not far from his side, it's just in Zhangzhou. What fish market has an unknown patient appeared in? It has nothing to do with him. Anyway, he doesn't want to go home now, and he won't be able to explain it to his family when he returns home. Just buy some instant noodles honestly, wait for the company holiday, and add some eggs to yourself during the Chinese New Year. He spent most of his time in competition and specially registered a companionship business. Because he was a man, the business was not very good and he could earn several hundred yuan for living expenses every month. But after logging into Bixen today, he discovered a problem. Originally, companionship was the most popular section, but now the companionship button has become an option on the homepage. The most important thing is that the entire page of Bixen has changed greatly. There are short videos, game videos, beauty videos, and various jokes performed by internet celebrities. The plaza business also exists, but its location has become more secretive. The mall is also there, the location is more conspicuous, and then there is the creation button, where you can take videos and upload them yourself. He was confused. Isn't this similar to Douyin? Bixen is a companionship platform. What is this for? When he opened the mall, a pop-up window appeared directly. It says about Bixen Mall's agricultural assistance services. The prices of potatoes, cabbage, radish, and celery are very cheap. We also remind everyone that the temperature has dropped sharply recently, and those who are feeling unwell are advised to wear masks. The words were divided, and Song Jiajia on the other side was miserable. Li Yuan reduced his holdings, directly reducing the market value of Song's shares to less than 30 billion, and funds fled one after another. She didn't know how many times she had been told this by her relatives. There are even more problems on Bixen's side, because Li Yuan suddenly intervened and iterated the entire Bixen. And it is a disruptive change. Abandoned the main business and competed with others in the short video field. In this market, Penguin has not even started to develop. With the help of comparison and the mall business, as long as the mall has a good reputation, it can be transformed into an online shopping platform in the future, which is a very good direction. As a result, Li Yuan actually wanted to make a short video. This industry is very dependent and will not give others a chance. If Li Yuan does this, the original companionship business may be greatly reduced, and if companionship fails, users will naturally not be able to stay. The most outrageous thing is that Bixen also has a rule, that is, after registering a mobile phone number, real name authentication is required before you can enter the app. Doesn't this drive away users? In the past few days, Li Yuan has been in his office. She has lost the right to make decisions and can basically only be a secretary. Li Yuan's phone calls basically never stopped. He kept calling Yu and Yao Yingsong to ask them about the situation there. Usually at this time, the discussion should be about what to do with the annual meeting and how to distribute bonuses. It seems that this year has just entered the working atmosphere. On January 15, Song Jiajia finally couldn't bear it anymore and said to Li Yuan in the office, "I don't know what you are crazy about. If you want to drive me away, I can do it at any time." Li Yuan replied, "Then you go home first. I will be responsible for Bixen for the time being. You will come back after the new year." Having said that, she had no reason to stay, so she turned around and left the office. She found that Li Yuan was really determined to make short videos. The original Bixen server only costs 16 million a year, which could accommodate 2 to 3 million people online at the same time and store tens of millions of data. As a result, Li Yuan began to expand the server capacity in October, and the scale of the expansion was unimaginable, hundreds of times. The server cost alone exceeds 2 billion a year. Even if you want to make short videos, shouldn't the money be used to subsidize content creators? Why upgrade the server? Could tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of people suddenly flood in? Remember to go home quickly. Li Yuan shouted from behind. Song Jiajia's pace became faster. Because she felt that Li Yuan was urging her to get out of here. His tenure at Bixen was over. She now understands that Li Yuan most likely wants her to help stabilize the basic situation, and when he has time, he can come over and take over at any time. Li Yuan just doesn't like the little money that Bai Xian plays with. He wants to start a business, he wants to capture the commanding heights of traffic and become an internet unicorn. It's just that Song Jia didn't think Li Yuan could succeed. When she got home, she never thought about going home. Going home this year would simply embarrass her parents, so she simply didn't go back. End of chapter.